In the first episode of Squid Game, you get introduced to Song. He's a father of one who doesn't live with his child. He lives at home with his mother, and I hate to say it, but the guy's a loser. He's had a bunch of failed businesses, he's in debt up to his eyeballs to loan sharks, and he has a massive gambling addiction. So much so that his mother will actually hide her debit card so he can't end up taking out funds from her bank account and using it at the horse track. Although Sung is able to do that anyway. It's the day of his daughter's birthday, and he really needs a gift for her. So he decides not just to take the money and buy one. No. He's going to go to the racetrack, bet it, and hope that he wins big to buy her something that she really, really wants. Now, at first, it's rough, but then all of a sudden, he does end up hitting big. He ends up winning a whole bunch of money, and he is on cloud 9. The problem is, his debtors end up coming for him. When Song exits the off-track betting facility, he is calling his daughter. He's saying, we're going to meet for dinner. You can get whatever you want. But then when he sees his creditors, he takes off running, trying to avoid them. He's so out of sorts, he ends up knocking into a girl and losing that money. So when his creditors eventually do end up catching up to him, he's got nothing to show for it, which comes as a big surprise. And they're out for blood. I mean, they're threatening to do real bodily harm to Song if he doesn't pay up. While he's holding back tears, begging for his life, telling these people that he will pay them back, he ends up getting a bit of a break. The one loan shark says, okay, I'm going to give you till next month to pay me back, but if you don't, you're going to owe me your organs. And he makes Song sign a contract. Song, though, is so pathetic that he actually asks the loan sharks, as they're leaving, to borrow more money because he lost everything when he knocked into that girl. The loan sharks don't give it to him, so he has to go back to the off-track betting's window and ask the girl for the tip that he gave her when he won big. He ends up using that money to go to a claw machine and winning a prize that he can give his daughter. And even though his daughter is pretty young, she's probably 6 or 7, you can tell just by her face that even she knows her dad is a loser. Especially when she opens up the present and it's a gun. Now, that was something that Song did not expect to pull out of a claw machine. And in fairness, when he did pull the prize out, it wasn't a box, but it's something that's pretty tough to recover from. And Song tries to. He tries to make up a reason on why he got his daughter a gun until she pulls the trigger and turns out the gun is actually a lighter. All she really wants, though, is for her dad to stop smoking. So he pinky promises her that her present next year will be just that he will finally quit smoking cigarettes. Dad of the year. He goes and drops off his daughter, who's sleeping at this point, to her mom's place. Her mom has that look of, damn, why did I ever have sex with this dude? Which is a look that every woman I've ever been with has as well. But it's just, Song isn't a guy that you have a lot of faith in. He's someone that even when he does get an opportunity, he seems to screw it up. And a prime example of that is what comes next. As he's waiting to take the train home from his daughter's place, a man approaches him, very well dressed in a suit, and gives him an offer that's way too good to pass up. He wants to play a game called Dodgeball. Each player has one paper square. Player A puts his square on the ground, and player B takes his square and throws it as hard as he can at player A's square to try to flip it. If he flips it, he wins. The man in the suit offers Song $100,000 if he can win, and Song quickly takes him up on it. But Song loses. And Song can't exactly pay $100,000. So the man says, okay, well, I'll slap you. Every time you lose, I'll just slap you instead of taking your money. And they play for a while. Song's face is beat up. But finally Song wins. And he gets the $100,000, and he is thrilled. As Song is counting the money, the guy says to him, there are ways of making big money like this just for playing games for a few days. But Song tells him he's not interested because the deal seems way too fishy, way too good to be true. And that's when the guy stands up and basically reveals all of Song's information. He shows Song that he knows his last name. He knows that earlier that day he signed away his physical rights to a loan shark. He knows how old he is. He knows where he went to school. He knows that he was laid off and had a bunch of failed businesses. He knows that he's divorced. He also knows about his little girl. And at this point, Song's a little freaked out. He demands to know who the guy is, but the guy doesn't answer. He just pulls out a little card from his pocket which looks like it was designed by the PlayStation company because it has an X, a square, and a circle. But on the card is a phone number. And the guy gives it to Song and says, "We don't have many spots left." He then gets on the next train and leaves. And Song takes the card and takes the money and goes to grab dinner. He goes to a local woman that he knows very well. He grew up with her son, and her son has done really well for himself. Her son's name is Sung Woo, and he went to a really successful business school. He's a successful businessman. He is the pride of his mother's eye, unlike Sung. And you get the sense that Song knows it, and because of that, he's a bit jealous. He grabs the food, heads home to have dinner with his mom, and he's excited because he's going to give his mom all the money that he won in that game of Dachki. But she's not excited because she's really concerned about how he got all that money in the first place. His mother, though, changes the topic, asks how dinner went with his daughter, and asks, did anything come up? And Song says no. What would come up? And that's when his mother says, well, your daughter, her mother, and her mother's boyfriend are all moving to the States next year. Song's reaction is kind of weak, and his mother gets really pissed off at him because she wants her son to fight for custody of his daughter. But Song doesn't feel like he's financially able to do that. His mother, though, has already looked into the matter. She tells him all he needs to do is prove that he can financially take care of his child, and he can get her back, keep her in the country. Way easier said than done, though, for Song. That night, he starts looking at photos of his daughter and him together, and then he remembers that guy gave him the card. That guy talked about winning big money for just playing games, so he gives the number a call. The person on the other end gives him an address to go to, and Song gets picked up by a bunch of guys who look like they're wearing fencing cages. You can't see what they look like. And when Song gets in the car, he's immediately gassed. When he eventually wakes up, he's with 455 other people, very confused on where he is. They're all wearing the same thing, a green jumpsuit. The only difference is they all have different numbers on them. And what these people can't see is everything is being monitored by the workers, who are all wearing red jumpsuits with that fencing mask that you can't see. And all of it seems to be run by this guy with a black mask who calls himself the front man. To the contestants, though, they're just confused. Song himself ends up bonding with the first guy, number 1, who's an older man who's dealing with a brain tumor. A commotion, though, breaks out between two contestants, a guy and a girl. And the guy is beating the crap out of the girl because the girl is a thief. It just so happens, by the way, the girl is the same girl that Sung knocked into when he lost his money. The girl, who's number 67, and the guy, who's number 101, just have a bad past. And Sung, even though he was robbed from, feels like he needs to interject before things get really out of hand. Everybody, though, stops when 9 workers come out and address the crowd. They start off by welcoming the group and explain that if you win all 6 games, you're going to receive a handsome cash prize. Most of the crowd, though, is really reluctant to believe these people because they all were gassed, they had their stuff taken, and now they're being addressed by people who won't even show their face. One guy speaks up big time, saying how what these people did wasn't right, and that person just so happens to be Song Woo, the successful businessman. He wants to know why everybody should stay. And that's when the workers tell everybody who Song Woo really is. He's in debt up to his eyeballs. He's being chased after the police. Yeah, he might be a businessman, but he's a failed businessman. He's $1.2 billion in debt. And he's not the only one. Everybody in the room owes a lot of money to people they don't want to owe money to. They all need a way out. These games are it. Now, nobody's forcing anybody to play these games, but when you volunteer to participate, you're in the game for good. He gives the group a chance to speak up if they don't want to participate in the game, but nobody does because everybody needs the money. And then he makes them all line up and sign a contract. The contract has 3 clauses. The first one is a player is not allowed to voluntarily quit the game. The second clause is a player who refuses to play will be eliminated. And the third clause is the games may be terminated upon a majority vote. And everybody lines up to sign their rights away. They're then ushered through what looks like a dollhouse to get their picture taken. And their pictures are unknowingly to them being put on a board. After that, they're shuffled out to the game arena. And that's when the front man kicks back, pours himself a cocktail, and watches what's about to take place. Now, all of the contestants are pretty confused, and it's explained to them that they're just going to play a simple game of red light, green light. It's the old children's game. When it's green light, you move ahead. When it's red light, you have to stop in place. If you move, you're out of the game. There's a slight difference, though. In this game, you have 5 minutes to get across the line. Oh, and the big difference is, in this game, if you move and it's red light, you end up dying. And when the contestants realize that, it does not go well. A lot of them are killed off. The ones that survive are really just frozen in place. But one by one, they realize that the only way to survive is to get across that line. So whether they like it or not, even though they're all terrified, they have to do it. Song is barely able to get over the line. In fact, at one point, it's red light, and he's about to fall forward, but he's saved by a guy who grabs the back of his collar, holding him up. But in the end, Song, along with a bunch of others, do end up crossing the line and surviving to the next game. And when the game ends, the roof closes up because they're no longer in the city. They're on a remote island. In episode 2, all the employees take the bodies to a crematorium that is on location, so the bodies are disposed of right away. The remaining players, they're completely shook. As they're sitting there trying to process what the hell just happened, one of the workers comes in and he announces that there's only 201 players left in the game. After this announcement, you've got a lot of players begging for their lives. They don't want to be in the game. They just want to go. They promise to pay their debts. They put on the waterworks, all of that. The group of players and the workers go back and forth on how serious the matter is, with the workers reminding the players, hey, this is just a game, and those people broke the rules. That's why they're not here anymore. And you guys are going to win prize money. But at this point, the players don't really care about prize money. They care about staying alive. They just want to be let go. As the players continue to plead their cases, finally, the worker gets frustrated and just reminds them that in the second clause of the contract they signed, a player who refuses to play will be eliminated. And that's when Sang-woo reminds him that the third clause is the game can end if there's a majority vote. So they all agree, yeah, okay, we're going to vote. But before they do, the worker has one last trick in his pocket to try to keep everybody involved in the game. He shows them how much prize money they've won. Since there were 255 players eliminated, there's currently 25.5 billion won, or dollars, in the piggy bank. 100 million per player. And suddenly people start thinking, this game isn't that bad. The worker then opens it up to a vote. And it goes back and forth. But at the end, the people who want to eliminate the game end up winning out. And the people who want to play the game, well, they beg to stay in because they want that money. But that money is going to go to the victims' families. They're going to be compensated with the 25.5 billion. As the crowd is completely torn, the worker announces that they're not going to seal this door of opportunity just yet. He's going to give everybody one final chance. And if the majority wants to re-enter the game, then they'll be allowed to. He also makes some speech about how if they think that this is bad, it's not going to be any better when they return to their lives. And most of the players find that out the hard way. The players are gassed, they're tied up, and they're dropped off in random locations around the country. Each player is dropped off at a location with another player. Sang-woo is dropped off with the guy that actually saved Song's life. And he's in a bit of a predicament because where they dropped him off, he's nowhere near town, and he doesn't have a cell phone. So he has to follow Sang-woo to a convenience store so that he can charge his cell phone and he can use it. And when Sang-woo opens his phone, he's got a bunch of notifications from the police telling him that they need to talk to him. They're going to subpoena him, they're going to arrest him. And to the police, he was blowing them off, but in reality, he wasn't answering his phone because he was busy playing the game. Even though Sang-woo is obviously hard up for cash, he decides to help this guy out, lending him his cell phone and also giving him some money so he can get home. Once this guy does get home, he goes to his former employer looking for some cash that his former employer owes him, but his former employer doesn't really want to pay the money, even though he has it. It gets pretty ugly. The guy's hand gets stuck in a mechanism, and but anyway, the guy gets his money, and he returns home, and he gives it to his wife. As for Song-woo, he didn't really know what he was going to do, but he knew he had to lay low. He told his mom that he was out of town on business, which became pretty awkward when the police showed up at her work looking for him. And it's really unfortunate because what his mom doesn't know is that Seong-woo had put up her place as collateral. And it's only a matter of time before her restaurant and her home and all of it is taken from her. He actually discusses this with Song. Not really by choice, Song kind of ran into him. And Song just can't really imagine that what that guy said back at the game was true about Seong-woo owing all this money. But Seong-woo reluctantly admits, no, it's all true. Yeah, I put on this facade as a successful businessman, but I'm anything but. After talking with Seong-woo, Song ends up going to the police. And he tells them the whole story. They were kidnapped. They were forced to play this game. There was money involved. People were murdered. But it's such a crazy story that the police do not buy it. Song gets so frustrated that he gives them the card that he called to get into the game. But when they call it, it's nobody associated with the game. It's just a random woman. And the police think he's crazy, so they kick him out. Song can't figure out exactly how this is possible. When he calls the number, now it's disconnected, and he's really confused. But then he gets a phone call from the hospital. Turns out while he was gone, his mother had an issue. She got admitted to the hospital because she has horrible diabetes, and she's not been taking care of herself. The hospital wants to keep his mother there for treatment, but she starts stumbling out. When Song tries to stop her, she doesn't want to hear it because he's been gone for a few days, not keeping her in touch with what he's been up to. She feels like he doesn't care. She's not leaving, though, because she's hard-headed. She tells her son, I'm leaving because if I stay and they treat me, then who pays the rent? You used up all our money. We don't have any. I literally can't afford treatment. And Song knows that that is accurate. He wants to help his mother out, but there's only one place he can turn. It's his ex-wife's. And he doesn't want to go to her hat in hand, but he has to. He's got nowhere else to turn. And his ex-wife tells him, we don't have any money. We're not exactly flush with cash. This results in a little bit of an argument back and forth regarding the birth of their daughter and how Song missed it because one of his coworkers had to go to the hospital, but he ended up dying. The whole thing is messy, and it gets interrupted when his ex-wife's new husband walks through the door with not only Song's daughter, but also his son. It's a surprise to the husband to see the ex standing there. But Song realizes it's an uncomfortable situation, and he goes to leave. He made up a lie that he was there just to visit his daughter, but he's about to blow right past her, and then he remembers, oh yeah, I probably should say hi to her. Once Song does leave, the new husband asks his wife, what did he want? And his wife says he wanted money. So the guy goes and gives it to him. He chases him down in the parking lot and hands him the wad of cash that Song needs for his mother. And Song is really appreciative until the guy says, no, you don't understand. You don't have to pay me back. This is a one-time thing for you to go away. I want you to stop bothering my family. And Song gets really offended, to the point where he punches this guy in the face. He throws the wad of cash down at him, yelling at him, but then he looks up and he notices that his daughter has been watching this entire exchange. And he's extremely embarrassed. That night, depressed, Song decides to just drink alone outside. But a familiar face walks up. It's the old man. It's number one. He can't believe he's running into Song like this on the street, and the two start chit-chatting, drinking together. And that's when the old man reveals he's decided to go back in the game. Because as he tells Song, what they said in there is accurate. It's no better out here. And I've got this brain tumor anyway. I'm going to die, so I might as well try to win this money to pass it on to my family. But this old man isn't the only person that's thinking like that. In fact, a lot of them are. The thief has a brother to take care of. She also paid to get her parents smuggled out of a dangerous environment, and she got screwed out of that money. So she also needs money. The guy she was fighting with in the game, well, he's got creditors after him from a casino that are hunting him down, looking to recoup some organs. Yeah, a lot of people are going back to the game. And now it's got Song thinking about going back to the game. As he heads home to his apartment, he's a little surprised because there's somebody there waiting for him. And it's a police officer. When Song had made his plea to the police and no one believed him, this guy was walking in. And then he just kind of thought that Song was crazy too. But then he went to his brother's apartment because his brother had been missing. He was looking for clues as to what happened to him, and that's when he saw a very similar card, the same one that Song brought into the police station, and he got curious. So he went back, he got Song's information, and he tracked him down. And he starts begging Song to help him out. But all that Song will say is, I made that whole story up. And the cop doesn't believe him. But Song is not in the mood to help anybody out. When he does get to his front door, there's the card waiting for him to see if he wants to go back into the game. And like everybody else, he does. He calls the number, and one by one, they all get picked up. One by one, they all get gassed, and they all get taken back to the facility. There's one person, though, who didn't get gassed. It's the thief. She wants to find out where she's going. So while the gas was being administered, she just held her breath. And she's well aware of what's going on. But there's also another person that's aware of what's going on. It's the cop. He didn't believe that Song had just made up this story. He followed him. He saw him get picked up by the van, and he's following it. In episode 3, the police officer, whose name is John Ho, follows the vehicles and he gets to a pier. And he watches one by one as a bunch of vans load onto a freighter. He knows he has to get onto that freighter. So as the vans are waiting in a line, he just hitches a ride on the last one, and nobody notices. Once the freighter gets out to sea, all of a sudden, the doors on each van open up. And it gives John Ho an opportunity to see what exactly is going on. When he looks inside, he sees a bunch of people that are knocked out. So he jumps in one of the vans and he pretends to be knocked out. And that's when the workers start coming around and scanning the earlobes of each person. Because they must have put a tracking device in there somehow that gives them the information on the contestant. But when the worker comes to John Ho, there is no information because there's no tracking device. And that's when John Ho chokes him out and kills him. He then switches outfits with the guy, so now it looks like John Ho is one of the workers, and he dumps the body overboard. Now, he is almost caught. A couple of the workers notice what he's doing, and they walk up to him and say, what the hell's going on here? But John Ho, acting quick on his feet, just says, I have seasickness. And they say, all right, well, get upstairs. We got work to do. But now John Ho has his in. As for the rest of the contestants, they're loaded up on the island, and they're stripped down, just like they were the first time. Their clothes, their jewelry, watches, shoes, they're all put aside, and they're replaced with numbered t-shirts and green jumpsuits. For someone like the thief, she has to pretend the entire time that she's knocked out, but she's not. Upstairs, one of the workers who has a square as his symbol tells the front man that out of the 201 contestants, 187 players have returned, which is a really, really good number. But the front man isn't satisfied, and he tells the worker, well, keep track of the ones who didn't return. For the contestants, though, once they wake up, they kind of know the drill at this point. For Song, he's pretty surprised to see some people. He didn't expect to see Sang-woo, but he's here. And the old man, contestant number 1, he didn't expect to see Seong. They also end up meeting up with the guy that saved Song's life, who also was helped out by Sang-woo. He's contestant number 199 in your program, but ladies and gentlemen, he is Ali. All right, sorry. Anyway, all of them agree that they probably should form an alliance to help each other out. It might benefit them if they know what children's games are coming up next, and if they recognize it, maybe it could be their advantage. So all 4 of them form an alliance. But they aren't the only ones getting reacquainted and possibly forming an alliance. The first time the thief and contestant 101 found themselves in this room, contestant 101 was beating the shit out of the thief. She used to work for him. Seems like she kind of ripped him off, and he, being a little bit of a street kingpin, has quickly garnered up some minions, and he wants her to join. But she has no interest in doing it. And she warns his minions, yeah, be careful of this guy. He used to pick his minions' pockets to fill his own wallet. This really pisses off contestant 101, and he wants to go after the thief, but they get interrupted by contestant 212. She starts hitting on 101 pretty hard. She wants to form an alliance, and contestant 101 has some other ideas. They involve sex with her. He says some crude things to her. She takes it because ultimately she wants to be on his side, not against him. But in reality, she doesn't like the guy at all. She also does not like the thief. She finds her annoying. Especially when that night, contestant 212 is banging on the door because she has to go to the bathroom. The problem is it's after curfew. The workers aren't supposed to let the contestants out to do anything. All they're supposed to be doing right now is sleeping, but she's putting up a pretty big commotion. And finally, one of the workers opens the door and he's about to allow her, and that's when the thief jumps ahead of her and says, "I need to go to the bathroom too." And contestant 212 is pissed off, but both women head to the bathroom. Now, the reason why contestant 212 wanted to go to the bathroom wasn't because she actually wanted to go. Contestant 212 snuck something in. Buried deep in her body was a capsule filled with about 4 cigarettes and a lighter. Hey, she needs her fix. But she's not the only one who snuck something in. The thief snuck in a pocket knife. And as 212 is blazing up, the thief busts open the door, but she doesn't want to attack 212. She wants to open up the vent above her to go through and see what she can find about this place. And while 212 finds her annoying, she's also pretty curious as to what's going on here, so she tells her, "Look, I'll stand watch. You go get some answers. I'll stay here." And it gets pretty dicey because both women are, to the workers at least, taking their sweet time going to the bathroom, so it causes 212 to really put on an act that the guy cannot come in. But when he finally does come in, both women are back, and it does in fact look like she was just blowing up a bathroom. Unfortunately, the thief really didn't get any information. She crawled through the vent system, but all she saw was the workers were cooking something in big containers, and it smelled like sugar. Not a lot of information to go on. As for Jun Ho, he that night was getting acclimated to life as a worker. He's number 29, and he's been able to discern that there is a pecking order. Squares are very important. Triangles are below them, and the lowest on the totem pole are the circles. And he killed a circle. There's also rules that he has to abide by. Always wear your mask outside. Do not converse without permission, and don't leave the room without permission. There's also a camera in his room that's watching him at all times, so anytime he wants to use the cell phone, he has to be covert about it and use it under the covers. For the time being, he's planning to just kind of bide his time, find out what he can about this place, and hopefully get some answers to what happened to his brother. The next morning, the contestants wake up, they have breakfast, and it's announced that shortly after breakfast, the second game will start. For one contestant, though, he's been tipped off on what it might be. For contestant 111, when he was eating his breakfast, there was a small note in the loaf of bread he was given, and it just said, "honeycomb." It's a clue as to what they'll be doing. But it looks like he's the only one that was tipped off. The rest of them seem to have no idea, and when they get to the game arena, they still are pretty confused. There are 4 shapes on the wall. There's a triangle, a circle, a star, and an umbrella. And they're told that they're going to have to choose a shape. And a lot of this does sound familiar, but a lot of them can't place it. One person who does place it is Sang-woo. Sang-woo knows this game. They used to play it as kids. You get a honeycomb that's melted down with a symbol in it. And your job is to carve that symbol out without breaking the honeycomb. The easier symbol is probably going to be the triangle, but the worst symbol to get is the umbrella. Now, even though Sang-woo agreed to be in an alliance, he doesn't tell anybody about this. And he is conflicted. When they all agree to take different shapes, and Sung says, "I'll take the umbrella," he is about to stop him, but he doesn't. He just allows him to go take the umbrella. Each contestant then gets in the line of the shape that they want. They're handed a container, and when they open it up, they see the honeycomb and a needle. And for a guy like Sung, he knows he's screwed. Each contestant's going to have 10 minutes to carve their symbol out of the honeycomb. If it breaks, they die. Doesn't take too long for that to happen. 3 minutes in, the first casualty occurs. And the longer the game goes, the more people die off. All the while, Jun Ho is watching this. But he actually gets caught. A Square employee comes up and asks, "What's your duty today?" And Jun Ho doesn't really know how to answer that. The Square interrupts him and says, "Your duties are to carry out the eliminated player, so why are you here now?" And all Jun Ho can say is, "I'm sorry, I got confused." With the game in progress, the Square tells him, "Wait here until after the game ends. I want to talk to you." The game, though, continues to go on. And for a guy like contestant 111, it's light work. He picked the easiest one because he knew it was coming. As he's being ushered out of the arena, a triangle tells him not to follow everybody else, but go left. And he's being ushered away to a separate place. He's definitely getting some kind of preferential treatment. He's not the only one that's cheating, though. Contestant 212 snuck her lighter in. and she's using the lighter to cut through the honeycomb. As she's leaving, she drops the lighter right in front of contestant 101. She's still trying to get on his good side, and he's able to use the lighter just like she did to get out of there. The thief, Ali, the old man, Sang-woo, they're all able to complete the task. The last person who's really struggling is Sung because he picked the umbrella. But with about 2 minutes to go, he's sweating profusely. The sweat drips on the honeycomb, and he realizes this sweat softens the honeycomb. So he starts frantically licking it. Because if he can soften it up, he's not going to have to worry about breaking it. With 1 second to go, he is able to complete the task and get the umbrella out of there. For the ones who didn't complete it, they know what's coming next, but one particular contestant isn't having it. He attacks the worker before he's killed off, stabbing him in the mask with that needle and then grabbing the gun and holding another worker hostage. He's completely outmanned at this point. I mean, it's one versus an army, and that army turns the guns on everybody else that didn't complete the task, leaving him and his hostage. He doesn't really know how to play this, so he demands that the worker he's holding hostage just take his mask off. And he does, and seems to be a kid in his 20s, and he's shocked. He then turns the gun on himself, but he won't be the only person to die, because the front man comes down, and he shoots the worker, the one that took his mask off, because that's against the rules. As Jun-ho is surveying all these bodies that he's supposed to carry out there, he gets a reminder that number 29 is supposed to stay and wait. But he can't answer those questions, so he thinks quickly. The guy that died, he was a triangle. So with everybody preoccupied, he decides to grab his mask and assume his identity. In episode 4, there are 104 players left after the game. And when they arrive back, they're all excited because they find friends that survived. For Seong, he does think that maybe Sang-woo had a little bit of an idea of what was going on, but you know what? It's water under the bridge. They all got through this thing together. It's okay. The next morning, though, is when things really start to get interesting. Because the next morning, for breakfast, all that's available is 1 egg and water. For most of the contestants, they're not happy about that. That's not nearly enough. And that's when contestant 212 has an idea. She tells contestant 101, why don't we just skip the line? We'll get more food. No one's going to stop us. We have kind of a group of people. What's anyone going to say? So they do that. And there is one woman who kind of pipes up about it, but contestant 101, the kingpin thug, he tells her to shut up or she'll pay. And they get food. The problem is there was only enough food for everybody, which means that when that group cut the line, it left about 5 or 6 people without a meal. The workers, they really don't care. They explain the situation. We had enough for everybody. I don't know what to tell you. And that's when the one woman who piped up the first time says, I'll tell you what happened. Those people over there, they stole your food. Then it's a little embarrassing for 101 and his group, but he owns it. He doesn't really care. He doesn't see the big deal about it. And when one of the guys who didn't get food comes up to confront him about this, 101 doesn't really see this person as a threat because they're smaller than him. A little bit of entanglement ensues, and the glass bottle of water that everybody was given falls to the ground and it shatters. That's when 101 just loses it. He starts beating on this poor guy, kicking him. Everybody watching, nobody doing a thing, until finally 101 stops. But it's too late. The guy died. Seong starts screaming for someone to do something, the workers, anybody. But no one's saying a word. And that's when the announcement gets made that contestant 271 has been eliminated, and more money gets added to the pot. And it's a nice reminder for everybody that they're there to play a game. And the less contestants, the better. But there was one contestant that missed all of this, and it's contestant 111. He's definitely been getting preferential treatment, but that's because 111 is a doctor. And some of the workers have decided that with all these dead bodies, they shouldn't just cremate them. Not if there are good organs in there. They're going to steal the organs and sell them on the black market. But in order to do that, they need a doctor, and they need a guy like 111. So they've been giving him preferential treatment. They've been giving him hints as to what the games are. They've been giving him more food to keep him alive. But the return is that when they need him, they get him. So while everybody was watching this poor guy get the crap beat out of him because people stole food, 111, he was busy harvesting organs. One of the workers that's actually supposed to get the organs off the island is Jun Ho. Of course, he doesn't know that. So when he doesn't show up for the organs, it does raise some concerns with a couple of the other workers. But all 111 cares about is finding out what the next game is. The group hands him an egg. They do give him a warning, though. The game isn't his only concern. He needs to make sure that he survives the night. Because they gave everybody less food on purpose. They knew that it would cause an uproar with the contestants. And they knew that that night, violence would ensue. There would be an outbreak of violence, and the doctor needs to survive. So, yeah, they give him the egg, and there is a hint as to what the game will be. It's going to be tug of war. But his big concern at this point is surviving. So when he gets back to the barracks, he needs to find people to align with, and he decides to join 101's group. Now, at first, they have no interest in letting him join, especially contestant 212. She is really, really chesty about it. Even when he brings up that he's a doctor, they don't care. How does that help them? So he lets them in on the fact that he knows what the next game is going to be. And that little secret does get him entrance into their group. And it's a good thing because 101 has decided to seek out vengeance against the girl that ratted him out that night. When lights go out, he's going to go after her. But everybody kind of has an idea that something's going down that night. For Seong and his group, they have a feeling too, so they know they need to band together to kind of stay safe. The problem is most people don't trust each other yet. They don't know each other that well. Especially for the thief. As far as she's concerned, it's still every man for himself. And for the most part, everybody with that philosophy ends up dying that night. When the lights go out, all hell breaks loose. People are murdered left and right. And at one point, it looks like the thief is going to be one of them, but she's saved by Seong. All of this, by the way, is being watched by the front man. He knew what was coming. In fact, he had workers ready by the door to burst in and stop it. One of those workers was Jun Ho. He saw everybody lining up, and he decided to be one of them to see what was going on. So while all this madness is breaking out, there's people there to stop it, but they're just waiting word from the front man. And after enough death and destruction, he finally gives the order, they go in, and they stop everything. They have all the contestants put their arms up, they check them for weapons, any weapons they do find they take. But Jun Ho uses this as an opportunity to walk up to Seong and ask if he knows where his brother is. He uses his brother's real name, but doesn't matter anyway. Seong has no idea what the guy's talking about. When it's all said and done, about 30 people die. Because of this skirmish, factions have definitely formed. For Seong and his group, he decides if they're going to be a team, they might as well get to know each other. So they start going around and offering up names. And while the thief thinks it's stupid, she does reveal that her name is Sia Byok. Unfortunately, the old man, he can't remember his name. The other group, across the barracks, 101's group, the people that started this, well, they're actually really relieved that they have a doctor on their side now because he stitches the wounded up. For contestant 212, she realizes that 101, while he's a jackass and a douchebag, he's a very powerful ally. So she decides to seduce him. She sleeps with him in the bathroom, and she makes him promise that it'll be them in the end. They're going to work as a team. That's not going to last long, though. The next morning, everybody gets word that the next game will start soon, and they have to break out into groups of 10. For contestant 101, thanks to the doctor's tip, he knows that they're going to need a bunch of men. A woman like 212, she's not going to help him in this game. So he gives word to one of his cronies, go find the strongest guys here. Get them on our team. For Seong and his group, they start to strategize. They don't know what the game is, but Song-woo says, we already have a girl and an older guy. I'm thinking we need more men. It's sexist and ageist, but as he points out, it's our lives we're betting on. So he sends everybody out to go find one person and bring them back. Sabiak, she doesn't listen. She brings back another girl named Ji Young. Everybody else, though, does their part. They bring back somebody except the old man. He couldn't find anybody. which means they only have 9. And that's when their 10th teammate shows up. It's contestant 212. She couldn't believe that right after sleeping with her and promising her that they would work together to get to the end, 101 just kicked her to the curb, but such is life in the Squid Game. With nowhere else to turn, Seung's group was it. And it's not like they want to play with her. Nobody likes 212. She's arrogant for literally no reason. She's pretty much useless, but they only have 9 and time's up. So they don't have a choice. All the teams head into the game area, and that's when they find out that the game is going to be tug of war. For Seung, and especially Sang-woo, they feel like their team's screwed. They've got 3 girls and a guy that's pushing 90. Tug of war is probably not their game. The first game is matched up, and it is 101's group, and they easily win and they move on. The next group is Seung's. But little do they know that that old man is a ringer when it comes to tug of war. He knows all the tricks. As they head up the elevator to actually play it, he lets them know that he used to play this as a kid, and he was able to formulate this great strategy that would beat stronger teams. For instance, you don't all line up on the same side. One on the left, one on the right, one on the left, one on the right. You also all have to be facing forward. You need your weaker players in the middle, your stronger players in the back, somebody up front to set the pace. But the most important thing is when the game starts, everybody arch their back. Look up to the ceiling. Wait the other team out. They'll get frustrated, and that's when you make your move. For Seung and his team, they start to do this, and it starts to work. In Episode 5, Seung's group somehow manages to win tug of war. It gets pretty dicey there, but in the end, they live. When they return to the barracks, 111's group is shocked to see them. They thought for sure that that group was going to die. Honestly, who could blame them? When contestant 212 sees contestant 101, she gives him a little bit of a smirk. Like, yeah, bitch, I made it. When the game wraps up, there are only 40 contestants left. Seung's group is hanging out in the barracks, chatting about the game, the strategy, how crazy it worked. But 212 is annoying the crap out of them. She's pulling the same stuff that she did in 101's group. She's trying to say that other players in the group are weak, they need to get rid of them. And she just got there. Gets to the point where finally Sang-woo reminds them that she got kicked out of her last group. They ended up with all male players, which he finds really suspicious. He thinks it's amazing how they were all supposed to break up into teams, and they just happen to know what group would work best for that game. You can tell it's something that she hadn't even thought about. Maybe 101 knew what was going on this entire time. The announcement then gets made that there's going to be lights out in 30 minutes, and planning starts to take place. They don't trust 101's group to not do another attack, so they know they need to formulate some kind of plan, and they decide to take a bunch of the bunks and form kind of a barricade. 101 comes over at one point to kind of mock them, and Seung points out maybe he shouldn't be mocking them at all. Maybe he should be doing the same thing, because he's the top dog. It's only a matter of time before somebody comes for the crown. This does get 101 thinking quite a bit. He was planning an attack, but now he feels like maybe he should just watch his back. So when he gets back to his group, he tells them they're going to take the night off. They need to rest up. A little while later, lights out takes place, but now it's time for the doctor to earn his keep. It's time for 29 to make good on missing out the last time they were supposed to deliver the organs. The guy that he usually works with, or the guy that the old 29 usually works with, comes up to him and says, dude, where were you? Look, I covered for you, but I can't do that again. The only reason the guy didn't rat him out is because the old 29 saved the guy's life. Jun-ho just lucked out, really. When he gets into the room, he's pretty shocked. He wasn't expecting to see a guy cutting open a body. The Triangle, who's in charge, wants 29 to be punished for flaking the last time they were supposed to deliver organs. But Jun-ho's partner sticks up for him, saying, if you don't like this, do it yourself. Delivering organs ain't easy, Chief. They then start really getting on the doctor to hurry it up, which is ludicrous because he's sleep deprived, he's hungry, and getting organs out of a body isn't all that easy. But these workers are dealing with a time constraint, so they're trying to prod him along. They continue to push the doctor continues to work. Over in the barracks, each group has somebody watching to make sure that they're not attacked. Ali and Sang-woo take the first watch, and it's pretty obvious that Ali really respects Sang-woo and kind of looks up to him in a way. He keeps calling him sir. He saved him some food. And Sang-woo, while he appreciates it, is a little weirded out by it and doesn't want to get that attached. Eventually, their shift ends, and Sang-woo wakes up Seong. Seong is standing there, just staring off into the abyss, when he starts to see visions. Visions of an attack that went down at his old job. There was a strike that took place. The company wanted to break that strike, and boy, did they ever. A lot of people died. Sung wasn't one of the people on the picket lines. He couldn't afford to get fired, but he ended up getting fired anyway. It was a dark time in Seung's life. He shares this with the old man, who remembers the story, because it was a big story. The story stops, though, when the old man kind of grabs his head. He's clearly in pain. When Seung feels it, the old man is burning up. Seung gets really, really concerned for this guy. He shares his concern with the team, and some people do want to help out. Surprisingly, one of them is the thief, Sub-yak. They start to nurse the guy back to health, but then they have to take watch again. Down in the basement, the doctor continues to try to get these organs out as quickly as possible, under duress. While they're waiting, a couple of the workers talk about how they get these organs. There was one guy a while back who ended up waking up. He was like a zombie. When Jun-ho hears this, even though there's not a lot of details, he is convinced that the zombie must have been his brother. The reason why he thinks this is because they mentioned the zombie only had one kidney. And his brother had donated a kidney to Jun-ho. So he's convinced that he's looking at his brother's murderers. But he's still able to keep his cool. As Jun-ho asks a couple of questions about this zombie, the group gets a little suspicious because 29 was there. Jun-ho thinks he's going to have to pull a gun and shoot everybody there, but luckily, the doctor snaps. He tells everybody that he can't work with everybody yapping around him, so everyone needs to shut up. Finally, in the wee hours of the morning, all the organs are harvested, and 29, along with his partner, head off with the shipment. As for the doctor, he wants his reward. He wants to find out what the game is. But the workers tell him, yeah, we don't know. We haven't been told yet. And the doctor loses it. He is pissed off. He demands that some worker go find out what this game is because he's not going to die having just harvested a couple of bodies for these people. The problem is the workers don't really care. He doesn't have a lot of leverage. So the doctor gets some leverage. He grabs a scalpel and holds it to a guy's neck, demanding they get some answers. They act like they're going to, and then the person tries to fight back. The doctor stabs him with the scalpel. He gets hit by the other worker. It gets pretty messy. The doctor takes off running. The problem is that place is a maze. I mean, there's steps and a bunch of doors. He doesn't know where to turn. All the while, he's being chased by workers who want to catch him. He finally ends up in the room where they played the honeycomb game, but he gets caught by one of the workers. And while he has a crowbar, this guy's got a gun. The worker, though, doesn't want to shoot the doctor. They need him. So they're just going to try to talk him off the ledge. As the worker is trying to talk him off the ledge, he realizes this isn't going to work. The doctor's too far gone. So he starts to sweet talk him, trying to get behind him so he can attack him. And that's when the guy gets shot. He gets shot by the front man. He doesn't care that the group decided to sell the organs. What he cares about is that he ruined the most important asset of the game, equality. He was giving the doctor preferential treatment. That's what he cares about. So he kills him. And then he instructs the workers to kill the doctor. As for the organs that the doctor was harvesting, well, Jun-ho and his coworker took off. There were a bunch of hidden tunnels throughout the facility that led to an underground cave with a bunch of scuba equipment, and you would just dive out, find a boat, deliver the organs, and then dive back. The thing is, Jun-ho's questions raised a lot of suspicions with his coworker. So while Jun-ho's back is turned to him, the coworker pulls out a knife and says, "Who are you? You're not 29. Your voice sounds different, and you're way more inquisitive than you used to be. Take off your mask." He takes off his mask to reveal that, yes, he is not 29. He is not the coworker. But before the guy can do anything, he cocks his gun because as he was taking off his mask, he was pulling out his gun. And this guy brought a knife to a gunfight. So now Jun-Ho is holding all the cards. He tells the worker it doesn't matter who he is. What he wants to know is what happened to that zombie. Because as he explains, that zombie was missing a kidney because he has the kidney. That zombie was his brother. And immediately the worker, who is terrified at this point, says, no, that's impossible because that person was a girl. Jun-Ho doesn't really believe him, but the guy says, check the list. There's a list of all the players with all their info and their medical records. Go check that. Jun-Ho asks where these records are, and the guy says it's in the room where the leader's in. You know him. He wears a mask way different than everybody else. Now that he's got the answers he needs, he shoots the guy and takes off to find those records. He climbs up the ladder that the worker had pointed to, and he does get to the front man's office. He starts sneaking around with a gun, waiting for someone to pop out. But then he hears an alarm go off, and that's because the front man is onto him. After he found out about the organs getting harvested, it wasn't hard to find where they were doing that. It also wasn't hard to find where they were taking the organs out of. He knew that it couldn't be one person doing it, so he knows that there's somebody else in the facility who's still there who he needs to find. The front man decides to do a roll call, and he's able to figure out that he's looking for number 29. Jun-Ho, however, is not deterred by the sirens. He continues to make his way through the front man's office, and he does find those records. This game dates back to as early as 1999. And just as the guy said, there's records for everybody. But as he looks through them, he doesn't find his brother's name. He finds a book, though, that has all the winners on it. As he combs that, he sees his brother's name. In episode 6, as Jun-Ho is going over his brother's file to find out exactly what happened to him, he hears the phone ring. He doesn't know who's calling, but then he hears footsteps, and it's the front man showing up. So he has to hide. He hears the front man answer the phone and say, yes, there's been a minor disturbance, but it's being addressed. There's no need to worry. We'll make sure there's no trace of the disturbance by the time the VIPs show up. Don't worry, the game will begin on time, sir. And then he hangs up. Once the front man leaves, Jun-Ho goes over to the phone, and he tries to make an outgoing call, but it doesn't work. The phone only works for incoming calls. He puts the receiver down and he goes back to collecting data and looking for information on what happened to his brother. As for the contestants, the workers come in and they make all the contestants get up and stand in line. The problem is, for the old man, he's still sick and he had an accident. He peed himself. Seong, just showing some compassion, takes his jacket off and wraps it around the old man so he has some dignity. They then get word that the fourth game is about to begin. As they make their way up the steps to the next game arena, they see a troubling sight. It's 4 workers hanging along with the doctor. Their dead bodies are just dangling there. There's then an announcement from one of the workers that says what you witness here is what remains of those who broke the rules for their own benefit. They tainted the pure ideology that everything here has been built upon. Each of you is an equal, and you must be guaranteed that. There won't be any discrimination here, and we truly apologize. Most of the contestants have no idea what to make of this, and they don't know why the doctor's hanging in there. And that includes the Kingpin, 101. What he's more upset about is he no longer has an in on what the next game's going to be. They then make their way to the waiting area, and there's an announcement made that for the fourth game, they have to break up into pairs of 2. Just about everybody is looking around, and they're looking for allies. Sang-woo decides to pair with Ali. It's a natural fit. Sa-byeok pairs with Ji-young. And while he knows that it might cost them, Seong decides to pair with the old man. He knows deep down the old man is going to have problems finding a partner, so he wants to kind of look after him. No one, though, wants to pair up with contestant 212. She's just way too annoying, way too persistent. Literally nobody wants to deal with her. And as the groups make their way into the game arena, she's trying frantically to convince anybody to drop their partner for her. But nobody's listening. One by one, they just walk right by her in her desperate attempts to get a partner. She's pretty terrified. She thinks that she's going to get killed off, but in reality, it's the best thing to happen for her. With the odd number, she didn't have a partner, so she survives on to the next round. She's not forced to play. The workers just escort her back to the barracks, and she just waits to find out who made it, who didn't. As for everybody else, they make their way into the game arena, and it looks like an old neighborhood. In fact, the old man makes mention that it looks like the neighborhood he grew up in. Each pair, though, is teamed up with one of the workers. The workers hand each person a bag full of 10 marbles. The game is to get the 10 marbles from your partner. If you're able to get the 10 marbles, you win, your partner dies. Everybody has 30 minutes. Everybody played this wrong. They thought that they were going to be working as a team when in reality they're working against each other. And for a lot of teams, they don't like this at all. For a guy like Ali, who looks up to Sang-woo, he doesn't like the idea of one of them dying. For Seong, he doesn't like the idea of killing off the old man. And while Seo Byuk and Ji Young don't really know each other, they don't want to kill each other. But everybody's got 30 minutes, and nobody wants to die. So one way or the other, you got to find a way to get your partner to give you the 10 marbles. Now, one rule of this is you can't use physical violence. So for the Kingpin, he's not going to be able to just beat the crap out of his partner. Most teams decide to play odds and evens. The way that game works is one person's the guesser, and the other person puts a certain amount of marbles in their hand, closed fist, and the person that's the guesser just guesses if it's an odd number of marbles or an even number of marbles. If they get it right, they get the amount of marbles that's in the hand. And if they get it wrong, they have to give the amount of marbles that they themselves have in their hand. Ji Young and Seo Byuk, they decide to do something completely different. They decide to do a one-chance, winner-take-all game. They're not going to string this thing out, and they're going to wait till the last moment to play the game. They're going to spend the 30 minutes just trying to get to know each other. Now, the old man doesn't really seem to understand what's at stake. Seong doesn't know if it's dementia or the fever, but the old man just starts walking around the arena looking for where he grew up. Seong literally has to grab him and say, "We need to play this game." And finally, the old man agrees. Okay, we'll play. We'll do odds and evens. The problem is, Seong is getting worked in this game. I mean, it's bad. It gets to the point where Seong has one marble left, and the old man wins. But the old man asks Seong, "Wait, did I guess odds or evens?" And Seong lies and says, "Oh, you said the other one. You said odds." So the old man allows the game to continue. Seong lies his way to a victory, or so he thinks. He walks up to the worker to show him he's got 10 marbles, but that's when the old man says, "Oh, wait, I found one." And the problem is they're running out of time. And the old man doesn't really have a lot of interest in playing. He starts to do what he did at the beginning. He starts to walk around looking for the location of where he grew up. And he does find it. All the while, Seong is trying to convince him to continue to play so we can finish this thing. Seong is begging the old man to snap out of it, and finally the old man says, "Okay, why don't we do one more, but it's winner take all." Seong doesn't want to do that. I mean, he's basically won this thing. And even if he loses, he'll just convince the old man that he won. Seong screams at him, "That doesn't make sense at all." And the old man says, "Well, that's what you did. I mean, does tricking your old friend, does that make sense to you?" Because this whole time, the old man knew he was getting played. And Seong feels ashamed. Seong starts to cry. He doesn't quite know what to say. And the old man grabs his hand, puts the remaining marble in it, and closes it. And says, "Take it. It's yours anyway. We're gambu, aren't we?" And gambu means we're best friends in Korean. It's something they had said right before the rules of the game had been made. That they were best friends. The old man gives him a hug and thanks him for making this a great experience. But Seong is crying at this point because he doesn't want to see his gambu die. But he's going to. As Seong walks away, he can't look as the old man gets shot. Now, Seo Byuk didn't really expect to get a connection with Ji Young. But the more they talked, the more she did end up liking her. And when it came time to play that game, Ji Young threw it. She let Seo Byuk win. Seo Byuk told a story about how she has a little brother and her parents are still in North Korea. And Ji Young realized that Sabiak had something to play for. Ji Young didn't. This didn't exactly make Sabiak happy. She actually got really pissed off. She demanded that Ji Young actually play the game, but Ji Young refused. She was completely okay with losing to Sabiak. As Sabiak walks away, Ji Young says, "Thank you for playing with me." And then she gets shot. The Kingpin, he was losing his game, so he decided to change it up, and he ended up winning. But the worst, by far, was Sang-woo. He did some scumbag behavior. He was losing to Ali. I mean, losing badly. So he decided to trick Ali. With one remaining marble left, he convinced Ali that what they would do is actually work as a team, just like they thought they were going to initially. They were going to find another group of two, and they were going to go 20 marbles against 20 marbles. Sang-woo was able to get Ali to give him his marbles, to hide them. But while Ali wasn't looking, Sang-woo took all the marbles and replaced them with rocks and gave them back to Ali. So Ali is aimlessly walking around looking for people to play with as Sang-woo casually walked up to one of the workers and showed him that he got 20 marbles. The last thing that goes through Ali's head before he dies is the fact that he got betrayed by someone he thought he was friends with. In episode 7, as the survivors make their way back to the barracks, they're pretty surprised because 212 is standing there, smiling from ear to ear with a shit-eating grin on her face. She tells everybody proudly how, when no one picked her, the workers just escorted her back. So everybody's still stuck with her. As for the front man who watched the whole game, his big concern at this point is they still haven't found number 29. As he heads back to his office, his phone rings, and it's whoever is controlling this whole thing. And he wants to congratulate the front man on a game that was very successful. The front man thanks him and lets him know that the VIPs will be arriving shortly. But when the front man answered the phone, he noticed that the phone was put back on the ringer in the opposite direction. So he knows that number 29 was in the office. He picked up the phone. And he's pretty sure that number 29 is probably still in the office somewhere. He starts speaking as if number 29 can hear him. And he lets him know that he knows he's a cop, because the bullet he used to kill the one organ transporter is only issued for cops' guns. He goes through his office, gun in hand, saying that it's not too late for number 29 to come out and talk. You have a feeling, though, that if Jun-ho did come out and talk, he wouldn't talk too much, he'd get shot. The front man then enters the records room, and he knows that number 29 has been there. And in fact, Jun-ho is still there. He's got his gun ready to fire if the front man gets too close. But the front man gets a radio message telling him that they found a body on a corner of the island, and it's got a police ID. When Jun-ho had dumped number 29's actual body, he stuffed his police ID in there, and it was a good move. This act of genius has bought him a little bit of time. The front man takes off to go inspect this body, look at the ID, and as he's doing so, he gets word that the VIPs have arrived. He instructs the workers to incinerate the body, get rid of any trace of it, as he heads back to tend to the VIPs. The front man heads in, and he goes to address somebody that is wearing a cat-like mask covered in maybe diamonds. I'd say it's bedazzled, but whatever it is, it's gaudy as hell. And he lets that person know that the VIPs have arrived. And the VIPs are all wearing similar masks. They're not bedazzled, but they're silver, and they all look like a different animal. You've got a leopard, a tiger, etc. The front man goes to greet them, and he introduces himself as the front man. He tells all the VIPs that he oversees the operations of the facility, but all they care about is where the host is. And the front man explains that some urgent business has him preoccupied at the moment. The front man assures him that the remaining games will happen as scheduled, no one will be disappointed, and then he escorts them to where they'll watch the 5th game. Their viewing area is ridiculous. I mean, it's shaped like a jungle. You've got workers who are acting as tables and footstools. But right as they enter, the one VIP, who I think he's some kind of jungle cat. I don't know, folks. I didn't study animals in college. Anyway, this guy flips out because the one contestant he bet $1 million on committed suicide during the night. This guy had partnered with his wife in the last game. His wife ended up dying, and he couldn't live without her. So now this VIP is out $1 million. He's not too upset about it because he's got a ton of money. And the VIP experience includes free food and booze. That's cool. But one of the guys that's going to be handing out the alcohol is Jun Ho. He had intercepted one of the servers, knocked him out, tied him up, and took his outfit. He enters the room. He starts surveying the landscape, but he quickly gets some unwanted attention from the VIP with the jungle cat mask. Jun Ho would rather stand off in the shadows, but this guy won't let him. He demands that Jun Ho be his personal bartender for the night, and Jun Ho has no choice but to do that. The VIPs then settle in to watch the 5th game. There's only 16 contestants left, and this game is going to quickly whittle them down. This game will also be one that the VIPs are going to bet on, and they're very familiar with it. As the contestants enter the waiting area, they're instructed to go and pick a vest. There's 16 vests, and they're numbered 1 through 16. They have no idea what the numbers indicate, but right away, the middle numbers go quick. Seong is really torn about what to do. He doesn't know whether he should choose the latter numbers or the early numbers. And the more he thinks about it, the more his options get whittled down. He's about to choose number 1 when a guy comes up to him and begs him for the first number. He explains to Seong that he's never really been able to take charge of his life. And if he's going to die, he wants just one time for him to make the call. He wants number 1. He wants Seong to just walk away. Seong says, yeah, okay, man, you can have it, because they still don't know what the numbers mean. So Seong decides to take the number 16, the last number. It ends up being the best decision, as Seong completely lucks out. Because when they get out to see what the game is, number 1 is the worst number to get. Because the 5th game is glass stepping stones. There's 2 panes of glass that the contestant needs to step on. One will hold their weight. It'll actually hold 2 people's weight. But the other one, you're falling to your death. So the first guy to go, he's likely to die. The odds of him making it all the way to the end are slim to none. He's basically going to be a sacrificial lamb. The last person to go has the best odds, because at this point, a lot of people have sacrificed their lives, so you know which pane of glass to step on. For the VIPs, they had to make their bets before the contestants took their vests. So now it's a matter of just waiting to see who ends up winning some money and who doesn't. The game is going to take 16 minutes. The first guy is kind of forced to go, and the first pane of glass he steps on holds his weight, but the second one, guy dies. The second guy, it's much of the same. And the people in the back, they're getting anxious because the clock is ticking down and they need to get to the end before the clock reaches 0. So somebody at the front who's taking their sweet time deciding which pane of glass to step on is not ideal. As the contestants, though, make their way through the course, the Jungle Cat VIP is getting way too acquainted with Jun Ho. He tells Jun Ho to take off his mask, but Jun Ho refuses to. He knows that if he takes off his mask, the front man, who is over in the corner watching all of this, is going to come over and kill him. So he tells the VIP, let's go somewhere private. And the VIP completely abandons the game because this guy thinks, he's going to get some. It's pretty gross. This guy strips down naked, and he tells Jun Ho that if Jun Ho takes care of him, he'll change his life. And Jun Ho takes care of him all right. While on his knees, he grabs this guy's balls and brings him to the ground. He then puts the gun to his head and records the VIP telling the camera everything he knows about what is going on in the Squid Game. When Jun Ho gets what he wants, he knocks the VIP out and he tries to escape, grabbing one of the dive packs. Shortly thereafter, one of the workers ends up noticing that the VIP has collapsed, and he radios the front man. He tells him that the VIP will be fine, but he's pretty sure it's the intruder. So now the front man in the middle of the game has that to worry about. As for the game, that's reached a little bit of a stalemate when it gets to contestant 101. The kingpin is up front, and he's got a few panes of glass to go. He certainly doesn't want to risk his life, so he tells the group, somebody better get up here and start walking, or else we're all dying. He's completely ready to play chicken with everybody, and he's got a lot of people behind him. This is when contestant 212 finally gets her revenge. She agrees to go first, but when she steps on the pane of glass that has 101, she wraps her arms around his waist, and she's not letting go. She reminds him that they agreed to stick together right till the end, and for her, the end is now. She leans back, and they both go through the next pane of glass to their death. But it opens up the pathway for everybody else to start making their way towards the finish line. For the next guy at the front, he's actually a glass expert. He worked in a glass factory, and he knows what to look for with tempered glass as opposed to the regular stuff that will send them to their death. So one by one, everybody starts making their way through the course thanks to this guy. But the VIPs notice that this guy has some kind of edge, and when the front man looks, he confirms, yeah, he worked in a glass factory. Let me change it up a little bit. Let me turn the lights out so he can't tell the difference. When this happens, the only indication the guy has is to hear the glass. He needs something to throw at the glass so he can hear the ping. Luckily, Seung still has the marble. When the guy throws it on the one pane of glass, he hears it. The problem is he needs something else to throw on the other pane of glass so he can tell which one is tempered and which one isn't. And time is quickly running out. Sang-woo, he's not ready to wait for this guy to figure out which one's tempered and which one isn't. He shocks everybody by pushing this guy to a pane of glass which breaks and sends the guy to his death. He kind of had to, though. There's only like 12 seconds left. And everybody's surprised, but when they look up and see 12 seconds, they know that they have to get through the course as quickly as possible. And that was the last pane of glass, so at this point, it's just taking a few steps. Sang-woo, Seung, and Sa-byak all make it to the end, just in the nick of time. And when the clock hits 0, all the panes of glass explode, sending shards of glass their way. Now with the game over, the frontman is able to focus on Jun-ho, who was unaware that when he stole that dive pack, the dive pack had a tracking device. So the frontman knows exactly where he's going and where he can find Jun-ho. In episode 8, Jun-ho was able to take that dive pack to a close island. As soon as he gets off, he pulls out his cell phone, which he kept in a waterproof bag. He's trying to reach a signal so he can call the police station and get people to this location to shut this game down. He's having problem reaching a signal on the shore, so he heads up to the mountaintop. But as he's going up, he notices that the front man, along with a bunch of triangles, have arrived. So time is of the essence. He hides off. He is able to make an outgoing call to the chief of police, and he lets him know what's going on. Chief's a little concerned because Jun-ho has been missing for a couple days, but Jun-ho says, no, Chief, you got to get people to my location immediately. Coast Guard, cops, Air Force, Navy, Army, whatever, just get them here right away. I'm southwest of the mainland. You got to locate my signal. The police chief is really confused on what's going on, so Jun-ho says, I'll send over everything I've got. And he starts to try to text over the files that he accumulated during research. The pictures, the videos, everything that would explain what kind of situation he's currently in. The problem is the signal sucks. So every time he tries to send over a file, it's not working. Meanwhile, the front man and his men are getting closer and closer to Jun-ho's location. As Jun-ho tries to run through the forest to evade them, he gets to the point where he's at the edge of a cliff with nowhere else to go. He's cornered. He pulls a gun and demands that all the triangles put down their weapons. He introduces himself as a police officer, but he knows that he's screwed because he's completely outgunned in this situation, and these people clearly don't value human life. When the front man shows up, Jun-ho tells him that the police are on their way, but the front man doesn't believe it. He knows that the Korean police are generally pretty slow to react, and he also knows that with the location of the island, it's probably unlikely he was able to send over any kind of evidence as to what's going on. So he calls Jun-ho's bluff. Jun-ho, though, isn't giving up. He tells the front man if he turns himself in, he might be able to get a plea bargain. And the front man is being unusually compassionate. He tells Jun-ho that if he puts his weapon down, they might actually let him live. The front man, though, continues to walk closer to Jun-ho, and finally Jun-ho, using the final bullet in his gun, fires it at the front man and hits him in the shoulder. The front man's hurt, but he still doesn't command any of his workers to shoot Jun-ho. He tells Jun-ho, "Come with me, or else you're going to die." It finally dawns on Jun-ho that he should already be dead. So he asks the front man, "Who are you?" And when the front man finally takes off his mask, he reveals that he's Jun-ho's brother. That's why he was being so compassionate. He didn't want to kill Jun-ho. The front man figured that maybe revealing his identity to Jun-ho would get him to come with him, but it doesn't. Jun-ho's more in shock than anything. The front man at this point has given Jun-ho plenty of opportunities to turn himself in, so he pulls out a gun. And right before he shoots him, Jun-ho asks him, "Why?" But the front man answers with a slug in his chest. The front man and his people then head back to the island, where the contestants, the remaining ones, have arrived back in the barracks. Seong is pretty disgusted at what Sang-woo did. And Sang-woo reminds Seong that they'd all be dead had he not thrown that guy through the pane of glass. The way that Sang-woo looks at it, Seong should be thanking him because they need somebody like him out there who's not afraid to get a little blood on his hands. They start arguing about it, and then the conversation gets pretty personal with the insults. It only gets broken up when workers come in to give each remaining contestant a box with a tuxedo in it. They announce that because they made it through the first 5 games, they've prepared a special gift for each of them. Sa-byeok, though, isn't there to hear this because she's in the bathroom trying to clean herself up. She is badly injured. When all that glass broke, she got a nice big chunk right in her abdomen, and she's bleeding profusely. She tries to patch it up, but you get a feeling that it's not going to be all that easy to patch this wound up. It's pretty deep. She's going to try to conceal it, and later on, all 3 of them head to see what this special gift is. And the gift is a nice steak dinner. Sa-byeok is clearly laboring because as Sang-woo and Seong polish off their steaks, Sa-byeok has barely touched hers when they take the steak away. They take the plate, they take the fork, but all the workers leave everybody with 1 steak knife just sitting there. When they head back to the barracks that night, most of them aren't sleeping. They're just sitting in their bed, clutching that knife, waiting for a possible attack. Really, though, it's just waiting for an attack from one person. It's Seong and Sa-byeok waiting to see if they're attacked by Sang-woo, who at this point doesn't give a rat's ass about anybody but advancing in the game. So he's the threat. Seong has noticed that Sa-byeok is not holding up too well, so he wants to go over and kind of form an alliance with her. He knows that together they should be able to take out Sang-woo. And while he can't hear the conversation, Sang-woo can clearly see that the two are talking, and he knows the conversation is not to his benefit. And they are talking about taking him out and sharing the prize money. And Sa-byeok asks, "Do you know what you're going to do with all that money once we do get out?" And Seong says, "Yeah, I'll pay my debt off, I'll buy a nice store for my mom, and then I'll finally start to be a real dad to my little girl." Sa-byeok asks Seong, "How old's your little girl?" And when Seong says she's 10, Sa-byeok shocks him by saying, "That's how old my little brother is." And she tells Seong the story about how she's trying to win the money to get her parents over from North Korea while her little brother sits in an orphanage currently because she can't afford to get him out. An agreement is met in that moment, but the agreement is if one of them makes it out and the other doesn't, then the one that made it out will take care of the loved ones. It was proposed by Sa-byeok, who knows that her likelihood of making it out is slim to none at this point because she's continued to bleed out. She wants to make sure that if she dies, her little brother will be taken care of. And Seong agrees. Shortly after agreeing, Seong looks over and sees that Sang-woo is fallen asleep. He's about to creep over there and kill him, but Sa-biak stops him and says, "That isn't you." And Seong knows that she's right. That's when Sa-biak collapses over. The blood loss has gotten too much. And when Seong sees just how much blood she's lost, he tries to get help for her, screaming, causing a scene, trying to get the workers to come in and patch her up so she can finish the game. Finally, the lights do come on, and workers come in, but they're not here to help Sa-biak because they're holding a casket. And when Seong turns around, he sees that Sang-woo is standing over Sa-biak's body. Sang-woo killed her. Seong is enraged. He goes to attack Sang-woo, but the workers stop him. Because with only 2 people remaining, they still need to finish this game. In episode 9, it is now time for the final game. And Seong wants vengeance for everything that Sang-woo did. Up until this point, he had made excuses for the guy. He grew up with him, but killing Sa-biak was the final straw. The final game is going to be Squid Game. And I'm not going to bore you with the details of the game because honestly, it doesn't even matter. It's a children's game, and all the VIPs are watching it. The front man has arrived. He explains the rules of the game to the VIPs who have bet on it. But shortly after the game starts, it begins to rain. The rain causes a very slippery court. And while normally this is a physical game, because of the bad blood between these two, it becomes even more physical. Seong, who is an offensive player and probably could easily win the game if he wanted to, abandons the rules of the game just to take it to Sang-woo. I mean, he really wants to make this dude pay for killing Sa-biak. With the conditions being the way they are, though, both men get badly injured. But when push comes to shove, Seong is too much for Sang-woo. And Seong lets all that bottled up rage inside of him, he lets it out. He beats Sang-woo to a pulp. He could kill him. He could stab him and be done with this thing, win the prize money. But instead, he stabs the ground and he starts to walk towards the finish line. At this point, the VIPs have accepted the fact that number 456 is going to win. But then Seong does something incredible. He stops. He walks up to the worker and reminds him that Clause 3 says if the majority agree to stop the game, then they have to stop the game. The VIPs, the front man, the workers, no one can believe that this guy is this close to billions of dollars and yet he's willing to walk away from it. But he is. Because deep down, Seong isn't a killer. And he doesn't want to see Sang-woo die, even though Sang-woo did what he did. For Sang-woo, this is the only option he has to survive. If he says no, Seong walks over to the designated area and he wins the game, and Sang-woo gets shot. Because of that, it seems like a no-brainer. But Sang-woo shocks everybody by stabbing himself in the throat with a knife and telling Seong, "Just take care of my mother," guaranteeing that Seong would walk away with that money. Shortly after the game, Seong is patched up, he's blindfolded, and he's sitting in a limo with the front man. The front man congratulates him, but Seong doesn't feel like a winner. He's definitely going through survivor's guilt. To make him feel better, the front man reminds Seong that he bets on horses. And it's the same on the island, but the difference is they bet on humans. The big difference is Seong is a big winner, and he should be happy about it. But still, this little pep talk doesn't make him feel better. Seong demands to know who the front man is, but the front man just decides to gas him. And when they arrive back on the mainland, the limo pulls over and just dumps Seong's body onto the sidewalk. When Seong eventually wakes up, he does head to the ATM. He decides to see if the money is in his account. And he's a little surprised because it is. All the money that they promised is in there. He's a billionaire. He slowly makes his way back home, shuffling his feet through the market when Sang-woo's mother stops him. She hasn't seen him in a few days, and by the looks of him, he looks like he's been through hell. She just assumes he's been on a drinking binge, but little does she know that he's been through a war. She runs into her storefront to grab some food for Seong's mother. She also hasn't seen her in a few days and feels like she probably came down with something. Maybe some food can help. Seung goes to pay her, but the woman insists it's fine. Just give your mom any cash you got. She needs it more than I do. Right before Seung heads off, Sang-woo's mother asks him, have you heard from Sang-woo at all? But Seung doesn't answer, and she doesn't really prod for a response. She's still under the impression that her son has gone off to avoid creditors. When Seung finally does reach home, he finds that his mother has passed away in his absence. 1 year later, Seung's life has not changed for the better. Yeah, he's a billionaire, but he certainly doesn't live like it. He hasn't invested anything. He still lives in that small apartment that him and his mom were living in. In fact, he looks more homeless than anything. And that's because a year later, he's still dealing with survivor's guilt. Even the bank is concerned because he's got all this money, but he hasn't done anything with it. They actually call him in for a meeting, but he's not interested in taking any of their financial advice. In fact, he shocks the guy by saying, hey, can I borrow 10,000 won? And the banker, confused, gives it to him because that bank can't afford to lose Seung's money. But Seung takes it, and he just goes down to the river and drinks alone. While he's staring off into the city, a woman walks up to him and begs him to buy some flowers from her. She needs to get rid of him that night or they're going to wilt away. And Seung hands over the 10,000 won that he borrowed for one flower. But the flower came with a card. And that card has a square, a circle, and a triangle on it. And when Seung flips to the back, the card reads, December 24th, 11:30 p.m., Sky Building, 7th floor. From your Ganbu. Seung is very confused. He heads to that building, and it turns out there is only one floor you can go to, and it is the 7th floor. And when Seung arrives, he is shocked because there is the old man sitting in a hospital bed on a ventilator. Seung demands to get some answers, but the old man points out the window to a homeless guy laying on the ground outside. He says, let's play a game. That guy's going to freeze to death if he stays out there any longer. So if that man remains out there until midnight, which is in 25 minutes, I win. But if anyone helps that old man, then you win. Seung, however, doesn't want to play a game. He wants answers. He wants to know why the old man did what he did. He wants to know who the old man is. He wants to know why he survived and nobody else did. The old man tells him if he agrees to play the game, then he'll explain himself. And Seung says, okay, fine, I'll agree. The two men then wait to see if anybody helps this old man outside. While they wait, the old man tries to explain himself. He tells Seung that he's made a living lending out money. He then asks the old man, why did you send the card? And the old man says, I heard that all the money you won is just sitting there. Is that all just because you feel guilty? That money's yours now. That cash is your reward. You have every right to use it now. Seung then asks him why he did all of this. The old man returns his question with a question. Do you know what someone with no money has in common with someone with too much? Living is no fun for either of them. If you have too much money, everything gets boring. And every time I talk to one of my clients, they felt the same way. There was no joy in their life anymore. So we all decided to get together. We concocted this idea to finally have some fun. Seung is pissed off when he hears that word, fun, because it wasn't fun for him. But the old man reminds him, you forgot that no one forced you to play. And in fact, you left and you decided to come back. You signed over your rights. You did that, not us. This was your choice. As they're sitting there, though, the clock is quickly ticking down. There are only minutes remaining until midnight, and the guy outside has not been helped yet. The old man asks Seung, tell me, do you still trust in humanity being good? But Seung ignores what he said and asks, I want to know why you joined us in the game. The old man explains that when he was a child, he had so much fun playing with his friends. He wanted to feel something one last time before he died. Because that tumor, that is real, and it has gotten bigger. He knew that he wasn't going to get that feeling if he just watched the game. So he decided to participate. He tells Seung, thanks to you, I got to remember all these things that I had forgotten. It had been such a long time since I had been able to have that much fun. As he's saying this, Seung isn't even looking at him. His eyes are fixated outside to the homeless guy that is lying on the ground. It's seconds until midnight. And that's when Seung's faith in humanity is restored, because right before the clock bell chimes, somebody comes and helps him. He proudly says to the old man, "Look at that. There's someone who cares." But the old man is dead. Shortly after Seung leaves, the front man comes to check on the body. After this conversation with the old man, Seung decides to do what he said. Live his life and enjoy the reward money. He's got big plans and a fresh new haircut. The first thing he does is he makes good on his promise to Sabiak. He goes and he picks up Sabiak's brother from the orphanage. He never tells Sabiak's brother what happened to his big sister, but instead he puts him in a really good home. He delivers him to Sang-woo's mother. He also has loaded up a suitcase full of money to take care of the little boy. And then he heads off, because Sang-woo has a daughter of his own that he has to take care of. He's decided to head to America to visit her. As he hops off the train heading to the airport, he's talking to her, saying, "I'll let you know when I get on the plane. I'm looking forward to seeing you." And then he hears a very familiar sound. It's the sound of the game he was playing that got him into this mess in the first place. And when he looks across the train platform, there's some guy getting slapped. Seung drops his stuff. He rushes over to the platform to catch the guy who is orchestrating the game, but it's too late. When he gets over there, the guy has hopped in the next train and taken off. Seung then turns to the guy who was playing, and he grabs the card from him. He tells him, "You're not going." As he's sitting in the airport terminal, he's just staring at the card. And finally, right before he boards the plane, curiosity gets the best of him, so he decides to call the number. He gives his information just like he did the first time, only this time he has a message. He tells the person on the other end, "I am not a horse. I am a person. That's why I want to know who you people are." But that's when the front man jumps on the phone and says, "Player 456, don't get any absurd ideas. Just get on that plane. It's for your own good." But Seung hangs up, and he doesn't get on the plane. Seung hangs up and turns around. And that is the end of Season 1 of Squid Games. Thank you so much for getting to this part of the recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like this. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this recap sucked. If you did think it sucks, though, just hit the thumbs down button. You don't have to go to the comment section and make a nasty comment, because those, they make me feel bad, and I'm baby poop soft. Hey, I have merch. Go buy a t-shirt. Go buy a mug, Help me get over the poverty line. That'd be cool. But just know, I do appreciate you guys at least getting to this part of the recap. Now, Season 2 picks up right where Season 1 left off, with Jiyeon in the airport getting that phone call and deciding, you know what, I'm not getting on the airplane. I'm not going to be with my little girl. I'm going to go find these people and bring them down. He demands that the front man show himself, which, of course, the front man does not do. But once he hangs up and gets in a taxi cab, he realizes that there must be some way they're tracking him. So he heads to a convenience store, he grabs an X-Acto knife, and he finds the chip, which he cuts out. He then goes looking for these people. But after 2 years, he still hasn't been able to locate them. And he's been searching. He's actually hired people, like Mr. Kim, the guy who he used to own money to. Now with his newfound wealth, he's been able to hire Mr. Kim and his entire team to comb the area, comb train stations, and look for this guy playing dachi. One group, though, that he is not asking for help from is the police, where Jun-ho works. That's right, Jun-ho was rescued by a local fisherman, saved, brought to the hospital in a coma, but when he woke up, he realized he no longer wants to do that kind of police work. He'd rather be a traffic cop. And the way that he looks at it, it's much more concrete. You're either following the rules or you're not. His former police chief, though, thinks that he's wasting his time, and he meets with him to beg him to come back to major crimes, but Jun-ho isn't about to do that. The police chief thinks that it's just because they didn't listen to Jun-ho, but they actually did. I mean, they followed up on his leads, they just didn't find anything. And Jun-ho told them all about the island, everything he found. The only thing he didn't tell them was about his brother. But after they came back with no leads and no information, he decided, you know what, I'm going to transfer to the traffic division, and I'm just going to find this island myself. So during his free time, he hires the same fisherman who saved him to go around looking for this island. But he's been doing that for a while, and just like Jihan, he hasn't had any luck. So you've got both these people looking for the island and looking for who runs it, but after 2 years, they're just coming up empty. With some of the money, Jihan decided to buy a hotel. It's a pretty crappy hotel, but it's really where he's headquartered. It's there where he meets with Mr. Kim, and he tells him that it's around this time of the year where they're looking for new players of the game. Now, while he's not 100% sure, he's also very confident that they are still playing the game, even with the old man dying. Jihan doesn't want to wait another year to try to find this guy, so he's decided to up the ante a bit. He tells Mr. Kim, get every single guy you know to comb the train stations, and whoever finds them will get a 1 billion won reward. After the meeting, Mr. Kim gets in the van and he tells a couple of his workers the news. And a lot of the workers think that Jihan is crazy. And even Mr. Kim doesn't really buy the story he's telling, but it also is interesting to him because this guy who owed him money suddenly has a ton of it. Meanwhile, a lot of people that do owe him money go missing and are never seen again. So Mr. Kim is at least interested in the idea. But what he's interested more in is the fact that Jihan is throwing around money, and that's something that everybody can need. The next morning, Woo Seok, who is Mr. Kim's second in command, briefs everybody on the situation, who they're looking for, the reward money, and what they need to do when they get to the train station, which is essentially just send a selfie, confirm you're there, and then send a selfie when you're leaving. Unfortunately, just like Jun Ho's search for the island, the search for the man playing Dachi is coming up empty. Team after team is checking in, and it's been no luck. One of the teams that is looking is Mr. Kim and Woo Seok. And as they're quote-unquote looking, Woo Seok is saying how crazy this whole situation is because it's been 2 years. They haven't even had a sniff of this guy. He doesn't believe he actually exists. But Mr. Kim truly believes there's something to this because he knows that Jihan wouldn't waste billions of won on someone who's not a real person. But then suddenly, they hear it. They hear the sound of someone playing Dachi. And when they look across the platform, there is somebody who fits the description perfectly. Right away, they call up Jihan. They tell him, hey, we found your guy. And Jihan, who's sitting in his car kind of waiting word from every team, says, okay, send me your location, but do not let him get out of your sight. So Mr. Kim and Woo Seok start following this guy. The whole time, they're sending Jihan updates on their location. But they watch him go to the market, and he gets a bunch of lottery tickets. He gets a bunch of buns. And then they watch him go to the park and do the oddest thing. He starts walking up to homeless people and offering them a choice between the food or the lottery ticket. And all of them take the lottery tickets. All of them lose. Which is when Dachi guy just pours out all the food and starts stomping on it, ridiculing all of these people for making their choice. The lottery ticket over the food. Jihan probably would have seen this live, however, he was pulled over by the police for speeding. His behavior during the traffic stop raised some red flags with the cop who took his license and gave him the ticket because it was just so rushed. The other thing that kind of raised a lot of red flags was the fact that Jihan had a bunch of phones and tablets in his car. He mentions this to his partner, who just so happens to be Jun Ho. And when Jun Ho sees the name of the driver that was pulled over, he recognizes the name right away. But one of the reasons why Jihan was in such a rush was because he got a phone call from Mr. Kim who said, hey, this guy is leaving the park. We're going to keep tailing him, but you got to get here fast. When Jihan finally does arrive at the location that he was sent, though, nobody's there. What he does see, though, is blood on a trash bag. He knows that there was some kind of conflict. He's not quite sure what to do next, so he starts walking away. But he's completely oblivious to the fact that he was being watched by the guy who plays Dachi. Meanwhile, Jun Ho wanted to find out more about Jihan. When he looked up his plate information, he found out that the car was a rental for a company. And when he located the address for the company, he decided that night he was going to head there, try to find out more information about this guy who he thinks had some information regarding his brother. When he gets to the particular business at night, it's actually the warehouse where Woo Seok was debriefing everybody regarding the guy they're looking for. So it's Mr. Kim's business. Jun Ho is able to sneak in through an open window and start snooping around. There is a close call with one of the workers, but he opens up a desk drawer and he finds the location of a business that is run by Jihan. It's the Pink Hotel. So that's going to be his next lead. But it's at the Pink Hotel where Woo Seok and Mr. Kim are being held by the man who plays Dachi. They're pretty beat up, they're gagged, they're tied up, and the Dachi man decides to have them play a game of rock, paper, scissors, with Russian roulette thrown in there for fun. Woo Siak and Mr. Kim go back and forth a little bit until finally Mr. Kim ends up losing. And the man who plays Dachi has no problem pulling the trigger and killing him, which shakes Woo Siak to his core because he was really close to Mr. Kim. With just the man who plays Dachi and Woo Siak alone, he's able to get Woo Siak to tell him everything regarding Jihan, the search, all of that. And then he just stashes him in one of the rooms in the hotel, and he waits for Jihan to show up. When Jihan finally does arrive, the man who plays Dachi starts to mock him about the fact that he's been searching for him for 2 years. He can't quite figure out why, and Jihan says it's because I won the game. I mean, I want to thank you after all. The tone, however, says otherwise. The man tells him all he did was extend the invitation. It was Jihan who accepted. And Jihan says, well, exactly. I mean, I want to see the people who extended me the invitation, not you, but the people you work for. The two go back and forth for a bit, with Jihan reiterating that he wants to talk to the people in charge, and the guy saying, that's not going to happen. Eventually, the guy says, how do you think I got to where I am today? I used to work at the games. I would clear and incinerate the bodies of countless people like you. I worked really hard at it, and finally they gave me a gun, and it felt really good because it was as if they acknowledged my existence. But then one day a man lost, and I had to go over and shoot him. And I looked and recognized the man because it was my father. And you know what I did? I shot him immediately without hesitation. And that's the moment I knew I was built for this. Jihan says that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't change the fact that you're an obedient lapdog. It's worth mentioning, too, he's saying this with a gun pointed right at his head, and he is not scared at all, not intimidated one bit. The man then suggests they play their own game of Russian roulette, this time with one bullet, but they never reload the chamber. That way, by the time you reach 6, you know the bullet will be fired. They go back and forth after a while until it becomes apparent that they're getting down to the final 2 shots. Right before Jihan pulls the trigger, the man says, I bet you're thinking right now, I already have the gun. I mean, who cares what the rules are? I'm just going to aim and shoot this guy, killing him. Because if you want to meet the person you were talking about earlier, all you have to do is shoot me. The key is right here in my pocket. If you do, though, you have to admit one thing to me. You're trash. But Jihan doesn't take the bait. He pulls the trigger. It doesn't go off. And that means that there is 1 shot remaining, and that has the bullet in it. That's when Jihan starts giving the guy the same speech he just gave him moments earlier. How all he has to do is shoot Jihan. I mean, after all, it's obvious that the bullet is still remaining. But Jihan looks at him and says, if you do that, though, I need you to admit something. That you're nothing more than a worthless lapdog. But the guy also doesn't take the bait. He pulls the trigger, and it kills him instantly. In episode 2, Jihan remembers what the guy said about how the key to meeting the people who are in charge is simply in his pocket. And when he checks it, sure enough, there's a card in there with a date and a location. The date is October 31st. As he's looking at the card, though, Jun-ho busts the door open because he was outside, and when he heard a gunshot, he rushed in because, after all, he is a police officer. The person who actually told him where he could find Jihan was Woo Siak. He was in the first door that Jun-ho checked. So Woo Siak told him the room number and then started to get his bearings together while Jun-ho rushed over to find out what happened. Obviously, with a dead body and Jihan holding a gun, the thought was that Jihan killed this guy. But before Jun-ho could take him into custody, Woo Siak came in and hit Jun-ho over the head, knocking him out. Woo Siak realizes that Jihan has no idea who he is, so he starts to explain himself, how he worked with Mr. Kim. But then he notices that the guy is dead, and he gets really mad because he wanted to extract vengeance on this guy for killing Mr. Kim. When everybody kind of calms down, though, they just wait for Jun-ho to wake up and question him about why exactly he showed up. And Jun-ho explains that they've actually met twice. He starts to explain that the first time was at his house, but the second time was at the island, right before the fight broke out. He infiltrated the group, and he was trying to find his brother. And that certainly jogs Jihan's memory. Jun-ho asks him what happened. He explains that they were playing Russian roulette, the guy lost, but what he's really after is to stop the game. Jun-ho starts begging Jihan to let him go because he wants to help Jihan find these people, never once revealing that the frontman is actually his brother, and he knows this. But one of the reasons why he's so adamant that he wants to help is because he finds out Jihan isn't after the frontman, he's after the VIPs, the people that really run the game. After a little bit of convincing, Jihan agrees to let Jun-ho go and join Woo Siak and himself. First place he shows him is where he stashes the money, which is a ton. Both of them, however, tell Jihan, we're not doing this for the money, we're doing it for principle. And Jun-ho mentions how there are armed troops on the island, so they're going to need ammunition and firepower, which Jihan already has. He's got a bunch of guns and ammunition from the black market, and he's been using a corridor in the hotel to train. Jihan tells Woo Seok that he needs a team, mercenaries, if you will. And then he turns to Jun-ho and says, you can come here and practice anytime, but I'm going to need you to quit your job. You can't be a cop and do this. Both Woo Seok and Jun-ho agree. After he leaves both men, Jihan goes and he checks in on Sang-woo's mother and Sa-byok's brother. They're doing great. Sa-byok's brother seems more than happy. But he made a promise to Sa-byok, so the next day he goes and meets with the guy that smuggles people out of North Korea, and he gets an update on what's going on with Sa-byok's mother. The man tells her that she's still alive, but right now it's just not feasible to move her out of North Korea. Jihan, however, doesn't really care. He just wants it done. As Jihan is leaving, a girl is walking to the brokerage firm named Kang Noel. Noel works in an amusement park as one of the characters. And that day was a very long day for Noel. First of all, it was hot, so she was sweating her you-know-what off. But as she was sitting down in the area where they all changed, a little girl walked in. They frantically had to put their heads on. And the girl walked right up to Noel and showed her that she had drawn a picture of herself with Noel's character. And it made Noel feel good. Until she heard the backstory of the little girl. The little girl has a really rare form of blood cancer, and her dad draws caricatures at the amusement park. That reminded Noel of her own child, the one that she left in North Korea when she fled. She hasn't stopped thinking about that child. Even though every broker she's gone to has said that the child is dead, there's only been one that hasn't said that, and this is that particular broker. But it's not like this broker thinks that there's hope. He simply says to Noel, we just didn't locate a body. But the idea that your child, who was 1 year old when you left, is still alive is slim to none. You got to stop thinking about this. But Noel can't. She, a lot like Jihan, offers to pay the guy more money to find out what he can. And then she has a very lonely night sleeping in her car in the amusement park's parking lot. She's been yelled at about this before, so when she gets a knock at the door, she just thinks, okay, they're just telling me to move the car. But no, it's somebody with a card to participate in the game. The next day, she walks into her boss's office and she quits. She's not going to be able to do both. But as she's leaving the amusement park, she sees an ambulance. And then she notices that the little girl is being rushed to the hospital. As this is happening, the little girl's hat falls off. So Noel picks it up and heads to the hospital to give it back. But it's a nice reminder of Noel about why she's participating in the games in the first place. As for Jihan and his team, that night they're preparing for this meeting. The one that was on the card, it's supposed to be at a club at a certain time on Halloween. They know how these people operate, so Jihan is taking drastic measures, like putting a tracking chip in his molar, having a dentist actually tear the molar out and replace it. That way, Jun-ho will be able to actually track his location if he's taken. He then goes downstairs to meet Woo Seok's team, and it is a group of killers and mercenaries. I mean, this is exactly what Jihan would want. When they go to this meeting, they're going to be geared up. Before they leave for the night, Jihan decides to make one phone call to his daughter. He's never talked to her since deciding not to get on that plane. He simply wants to hear her voice. And he does so, and it's emotional, but he never says a word. The groups then head to the club where Jihan and Woo Seok are going to head inside. Jun-ho is going to stay outside along with the mercenaries. They're in two separate vehicles. Both Woo Seok and Jihan have an earpiece so they can communicate with Jun-ho on the outside, and they're looking for the front man. They head inside, though, and it's a Halloween party, because it is Halloween, so finding a guy in a mask is going to be a little difficult. But Jihan doesn't have to worry about finding a guy in a mask. No, they find him. At least the pink suits find him, not the front man. They tell Jihan to follow him, and as he's doing so, other guys in pink suits decide to tase Woo Seok, knocking him out. Now, Jun-ho had seen the pink suits walk into the club, so he went inside as well. And while he doesn't find anybody in pink suits, what he does find is a knocked out Woo Seok. He then runs out to the alleyway, and there's no one to be found. So he radios to the mercenaries, all right, get ready. I have Jihan's location, we're going after him. Jihan was brought to a limousine, where the front man isn't inside, no, it's just a pig that is also an intercom system. And as the limo is making its way through the city, the mercenaries and Jun-ho are following after him. But as the car is moving, the frontman is speaking through the intercom pig. The frontman asks him, "All right, here I am. What do you want?" And Ji-hun says to stop the game once and for all. This sparks a conversation about the morality of the game, the frontman pointing out that the players chose to participate in their own free will, Ji-hun pointing out that they're preying on people that are less fortunate in down times. As those two are talking, on the outside, the mercenaries and Jun-ho continue to tail the limo, but then their tires are shot out. Because the front man or the pink suits or both of them realized that they were being tailed, they had snipers on buildings, and they decided to end that tail. All's not lost, though, because after all, you have the molar tracker, but at this point, Ji-hun is on his own. When they radio Ji-hun about this, he pulls out the gun and starts shooting the glass, trying to take out who's ever actually driving the thing, but it's bulletproof, so he's not going to do that. He needs to pivot. He decides to ask the intercom if he can play the game one more time. It's a little surprising to the front man because a few seconds ago, this guy was asking to stop the game. Now he wants to participate, but he's adamant. Knock me out. Take me to the game. Even though the front man knows that Ji-hun's mission is to get the horse owners to stop the race, he decides to do as he asks. He knocks him out, and he's going to take him to the game. But it turns out the front man was actually in the passenger seat the entire time. And it's also worth mentioning that Jun-ho was able to hear this whole conversation, so he knows where Ji-hun is headed. That means this year's Squid Game has one more contestant, Ji-hun. As for Noel, though, you find out that while she's participating in the game, she's not a contestant. No, she's one of the workers. And how she gets to the games is a lot more different. Noel goes to a semi-tractor trailer, she gets inside, she goes to her assigned locker, and she puts on the pink suit, ready to do the job that she was hired for. In episode 3, the next day, Jun-ho, Woo-seok, and a bunch of the mercenaries get on the same boat that Jun-ho has been using with the same captain. Now, with the tracker, at least they have an idea of where they're keeping Ji-hun. Or at least they thought. They follow the tracker to a remote island, and what they find is a fisherman who is literally just fishing. That's when they notice that the tracker is in his bait. The people that are in charge of the games must have figured out that Ji-hun had this. They removed it, they put it in bait, and then they gave it to this fisherman on the docks. He had no idea about any of it. So now, Jun-ho, Woo-seok, they're back at square one. As for Ji-hun, he wakes up the next day in the same barracks that he woke up in 3 years ago. All of the contestants are taking this all in, they're shocked, they're kind of confused, except for Ji-hun, since he's been here before. They then hear the music that signals that they need to go to the floor because they're about to be addressed by the pink man. And they all start making their way to the floor except for Ji-hun. He kind of stays back. He is, however, stopped by player 44, who gives him a Miss Cleo kind of speech and tells him he's got bad karma, but she can help with that. Ji-hun, however, isn't really interested in getting laid at the moment. He wants to find these people and bring them down. The pink men then come into the room and they thank everybody for agreeing to come. They start to explain that if they win all 6 games, they're going to receive a handsome reward, but then some of the people just start complaining about the outfits, the fact that they don't have their cell phones. They also start inquiring about why the pink men are wearing masks, if it's just for fun. Then player 333 steps forward because he wants to know about the crypto market. He's got a ton of money invested in it. And that's when the pink men tell the entire room who he is. His name is Lee Myung-yi. He had a popular YouTube channel where he pimped out a crypto coin that he told everybody to buy and then it crashed. We're talking a combined 15.2 billion won, and then he just disappeared. They then start going around the room and telling everybody a few of the people and why they're there, how much money they owe. It's pretty embarrassing. You've got player 120, a woman named Cho Hyun-ju. She's a trans woman and she's got 330 million in debt. Then you've got player 230, a guy named Cho Seong-bong, who is a popular rapper named Thanos. He owes 1.19 billion won. A lot of it he lost in that crypto scheme. The worst of the group appears to be a guy in about his 60s, maybe 70s, named Jung Dae. He's player 100 and he owes 10 billion won. The pink man starts to explain that everybody in that room is in financial ruin. When they approached them about playing the game and they told them they'd pay them, they did that. And that should have garnered the trust. He then sways the entire room by showing them the piggy bank and telling them that the total prize money at the end could be 45.6 billion. But they're also offering a special option they've never offered before.
At the end of every single game, the group can vote on whether or not they want to end the game. And if they do that, they will all split whatever money's in the pot. That's when Ji-hun finally speaks up because this was a new wrinkle to the game that he wasn't expecting. He wants clarification that if they vote after the first game to leave, that they'll all get to split the money that's there. And the pink man says, yeah, that's exactly how it's going to work. Then there's a little bit of a commotion because two of the players recognize each other. They're mother and son. Player 149 is the mother, player 7 is the son. They're both wondering what the other person's doing there. And the mother is there to pay off her son's debt. The son is there to pay off his debt. Neither of them want the other there, but they're both staying. The pink man then get order restored. He tells everybody if they want to play, they just have to sign up. And then the lines start with everybody signing up to play because nobody knows what's waiting for him. After Lee Myung-yi, player 333, signs his permission form, he gets approached by a few of the players, one of them being Thanos. He's pissed because he looks at 333 as a big reason of why he's in this mess in the first place. He watches YouTube videos every day. He heard about this crypto coin. You gotta buy, you gotta buy, you gotta buy. And then he bought it and it tanked. He wants a little payback. But as Lee Myung-gi explains, dude, you invested at your own volition. I lost money too. Caveat emptor, man. Thanos almost ends up punching him in the face until player 124, a club promoter that remembers Thanos, stops him. They then all file into another room where everybody takes their picture and the front man's floor starts populating with the players. After doing this, all the players start making their way up the staircase to the first game, and this includes Ji-hun. But then he's stopped by someone who recognizes him. It's his best friend, Jung Bae, who's player 390. Jung Bae hasn't seen Ji-hun in 3 years. He found out his mother died from his wife. He can't believe that he's in the games. He's a little pissed that he had to find out from his wife and not his best friend. I mean, he did think they were close, but he also figures that he just disappeared because back in the day, he wouldn't lend him money. Ji-hun can't get into all the details, so he says, look, it's a long story, I'll get to it later. And then they start getting caught up. Turns out Jung Bae got divorced, but he doesn't really want to talk about it. He just says, when we get out of here, we'll catch up on some drinks. That's when Ji-hun grabs his friend and says, look, when this starts, stay behind me. Trust me. And of course, Jung Bae has no idea why he's acting like this, but he just says, yeah, okay, man, I'll do it, sure. All the players then file out to the arena, and it's the red light, green light arena, so Ji-hun knows it very well. Right before they get into the rules, Ji-hun decides to check his tracker and his molar. He pulls the tooth out and he realizes the tracker is gone. He's on his own. The cavalry is probably not coming, so he's going to have to maneuver these games and actually win them again. Or he's going to have to survive one round and convince everybody to just walk away from the rest of the game. As the big doll starts to explain the rules of red light, green light, and how they have 5 minutes, Ji-hun takes over. He gets in front of everybody and says, listen to me. This is life or death. When it hits red light, if you move, they will shoot you. I'm not kidding about this. Of course, no one believes him. Ji-hun continues, though, saying the big doll has cameras in it. It senses movement. There's snipers waiting to take you out if you move, so do not do it if you value your life. The game then, however, starts, and the front man is chilling with a drink. He's watching it go down, and Ji-hun starts telling everybody when to go and when to stop. All the while, he's covering his mouth so that he's not moving. At first, he's literally at the front of the pack, and he's putting his hands up. Don't move. And for a while, everybody is following this. I mean, you get through 3 or 4 rounds, and nobody has moved, nobody's died. While most of them think that Ji-hun is crazy, they're still following his commands. That is until one particular girl gets a bee on her during red light. She starts to freak out a little bit, and then she's shot. This causes panic with a lot of the players who just instinctively start moving, and they are also shot. And that's when everyone realizes Ji-hun wasn't making this up. It's serious. Ji-hun is desperately trying to save as many people as he can. He doesn't want anyone to die in the game, so he tells them to file in lines. If you're behind somebody, it can't detect movement. And this does work for the most part. You do have jerks like Thanos who just happen to push people so they die. But when it gets down to it, most of the people are able to survive because of Ji-hun's advice. There is one guy, though, who got shot in the leg, and he's alive. Ji-hun and another player go back for this guy, and they're narrowly able to save him before the time runs out, or at least they think. When he gets across the finish line, he's shot. He did move. He did break the rules. The consequences are death. And the person that shot him was pink guard number 11, Noel. All the remaining players then file into the barracks. They're all trying to wrap their head around what they just survived. Most of them at this point want to get the hell out of there. That is until they find out how much money is now in the piggy bank. 91 players were eliminated. All the players look up at the piggy bank mesmerized as 9.1 million go into the pot. There's 365 players left, which means if they all split it, that would be a little under 25 million. For some of the players, that's not nearly enough. They feel like what they just endured isn't worth 25 million. It's worth way more than that. And some of them start thinking, okay, well, if I can survive one more game, then I'll get out. And this is right before the vote takes place. When the Pinkmen do call for a vote to see if everybody wants to stop the games, they're going to start with the last player, which is player 456, and work their way down to player 1. Ji-hun gets up there and he votes no, thinking that a lot of the players are going to vote no, and this will be an easy decision. But after about half the group has went, 93 are yes to continue, 87 are no to stop the game. And Ji-hun has had enough. He starts begging everybody to end the game, think with their heads. But then you've got player 100, the old man who owes 10 billion. He starts blaming Ji-hun, saying that he scared everybody and that's why they died. He made everybody nervous. But then he also starts questioning how Ji-hun knew any of this. And he tells everybody that Ji-hun must have been placed there by the people who created the game. He's a mole. Jung-bae, however, sticks up for his friend, saying, hey, bud, he's the reason we're all alive. He told us what to do. Have some respect for the guy. Both groups, though, start arguing back and forth. No one can get a word in edgewise, and then finally Ji-hun screams, I've played the games before. I knew about the first game because I already did it. I played it 3 years ago. In fact, I played all the games, and every single person who was there with me is dead now. Some people believe him, some people don't, but then others realize, wait, if you're here, that means you won. He says, yeah, but also if you keep playing to the end, I guarantee that everybody in this room is going to end up like the players in my game, dead. Player 100, though, doesn't believe any of it. He doesn't believe that somebody who had 45 billion won would come back into the games. It doesn't make any sense. And then Thanos steps forward and says, well, if you did win this game before, it's good for us because it means you can give us tips on how to continue in the game. Unfortunately, as much as Ji-hun tries to talk reason into these people, they're just not hearing it. They're coming up with every excuse to continue playing the game. And then finally, the pink men say, we got to continue the vote, so everybody shut up and get in line. It turns out it comes down to the final vote, player 1. It's all knotted up, 182-182. Player 1 steps forward, he's getting pressured from both sides, and then he chooses to continue playing the game. But player 1 isn't any normal player. No. Player 1 is the front man. In episode 4, after the game, the pink men do their jobs by taking the bodies, incinerating them, but then also taking some of the bodies because they're going to take the organs out and sell them. There's just one problem. None of the bodies are good. The pink men are instructed to, quote-unquote, kill some of these players by shooting them in the knees, shooting them in the arms, things like that, so they can use their organs. But in this particular game, it seems like none of it happened. And the blame can be traced back to number 11. When the man in charge of the pink men gets word that it was likely number 11 who caused this, he wants to meet with her immediately. When Noel walks into the room, you find out that these two have a history. 7 years ago, he visited her in the hospital after hearing about her story. She took out an entire team of North Koreans who were after her with just one simple rifle, and she survived the demarcation zone. He was floored by this, so he decided to give her another chance at life by offering her a chance to participate in the games. He also told her when she started not to get in the way, i.e. not to confirm kills, but she's doing it anyway. He says, if you're worried about the boss finding out, it's not going to happen. I mean, before we had a player doing this, now we actually have a confirmed doctor, so... And she cuts him off and says, that's not my issue. He throws a bit of a temper tantrum, and then he calms down and says, when we first started, you said you would do anything to find the kid you left behind in Korea. Has that changed? And she looks at him and says, back when you told me what I'd have to do in here, you told me I'd be helping people with no hope. I'd be ending their misery so they didn't have to suffer anymore, and that's the reason I came here. I believed you. I haven't changed, sir. You have. She then turns around and walks out. Back at the barracks, though, those that voted to end the game are a little shell-shocked at the result. Number 1, the front man who made the deciding vote, walks up to Ji-hun and says, you were the reason I actually voted to continue going on with the games. I originally thought that I wasn't going to do it, but you gave me hope because you know what's coming next. So I decided to do one more. A group of them then circle around Jihan because they want to know what game's next. And he explains the second game is Dalgana. There are 4 shapes. The easiest one is the triangle by far. All they have to do is line up behind the triangle and they all should survive. And that's exactly what Jihan wants, but player 100, the old man, he wants the exact opposite. He feels like they're risking their lives at that point for no reason. If they all just survive, it's going to be the same amount of money. So what he wants to do is keep this information close to the vest, which would be about 15 people. But Jihan says, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to cost people their lives. I want to save lives. Once the group kind of disperses, only Jihan, Jungbei, and the frontman are left. The frontman still pretending to be a participant in the game. He asks Jihan, why did you come back if you won? And the way Jihan looks at it, the money he has is blood money. He then starts ripping into number 1 for choosing X instead of 0, which would let them all walk free. And the frontman starts defending his decision by saying, if I had pressed X and we all go home, do you think everybody would have appreciated that decision with that money? No, they wouldn't have. Another player, player 388, breaks up the tense conversation. His name is Daeho. He's a former Marine, so he bonds with Jungbei over that, but he also wants to join the group as a team, work together. While those 4 are discussing how they're going to work together and get through the games, you've got Thanos and his lackey still trying to bully player 333, Lee, after what he did with the crypto scheme. While the first conversation they had almost came to blows, this one actually does come to blows. I mean, Thanos starts beating the hell out of him, and it's only stopped by player number 1. He starts ripping their behavior, but also the fact that it's 2 versus 1, that's not right. And Thanos thinks that he can just kick the front man's ass, but he finds out that that is not the case. He gets embarrassed pretty quickly, to the point where most people give him a standing ovation. Later that night, though, the front man continues to buddy up with Jihan. He goes over to him and apologizes for how he acted before, about voting no and his defense of it. And then he starts telling him a story about why he's in there in the first place. He's got a very sick wife, and he needs to pay the medical bills. It's a very nice personal touch, and it makes Jihan see player number 1 in a completely new light. The next morning, though, everybody is woken up to the same classical music. Player 333 is dealing with a pretty bruised face from getting beaten down, but it turns out he actually knows somebody in this game. Someone very closely. It's player 222. Her name is Jun-hee, and she's pregnant with Lee's baby. They had hooked up. He wanted her to get an abortion, but then he kind of ghosted her. And he can't believe that she's in the games. And she really just walked up to tell him off and tell him that she plans on at least getting far enough to get enough money to raise their baby without his help. And that's not what he wants. He feels bad enough to begin with, and he wants to help her out, especially with the fact that she is in this game, a deadly situation, carrying their child. But she doesn't want his help. No, she wants nothing to do with him. She then walks off because all the players need to get ready for that day's competition. They all assume it is going to be the game where you have to lick the honeycomb. Everybody's going to pick triangle. But when they get into the arena, it is not that at all. It's a completely new game, one that Jihan has never seen before. It's a relay race. Everybody needs to break off into teams of 5. They're then going to be shackled together at the ankles, so they have to work as a team walking. One by one, they're going to go through this relay. Each member of the team has to complete a different game, a child's game. But they have to complete it in 5 minutes. And if they don't complete it, well, we all know what happens. Now, initially, when they get into the arena and it's not the honeycomb game, a few of the people start ripping into Jihan, but he's just as confused as everybody else. They then, though, need to start picking up teams. Jihan's team is pretty much already set. You've got Jihan, you've got Junbei, you've got Daeho, and of course you've got the front man, but they need one more. They decide to adopt Jun-hee, player 222, the pregnant woman. It's a bold strategy, but Jihan wants to protect her in that moment. Thanos has his team. You've got player 120, the trans woman who's having a big problem finding a teammate, but she finally finds an ally in player number 95. They end up teaming up with the mother, the son, and then the Oracle, the woman who thinks that she can predict the future. She's crazy and they're stuck with her, but hey, that's their 5th. Everybody else is able to find a team, and then they sit down and they start deciding what game each player will play, which is the most important. Most of these players haven't played these games in years, so they want to make sure that they're playing to everybody's strengths. After deciding what games everybody will play, they finally kick it off, and 2 teams go at the same time. But everybody quickly realizes that this game is going to be a lot harder than they realize. You can only afford to mess up a few times before you are absolutely screwed. And when the clock hits 0 for the first 2 teams, they get lit up. It's definitely a shell-shocking moment for everybody, but they need to snap out of it because the next teams are going to go. And one of those teams is Cho's team, the trans woman. In episode 5, Cho's team learned from the first team that went, the mistakes that they made, and it helped them out tremendously. One of the tactics that they used was if they threw the stone and they didn't hit the target, as a team they would quickly go to pick it up, but they wouldn't as a team turn around. They would just simply walk backwards. That saved a lot of time. This isn't to say that Cho's team had an easy go of it. The Oracle, for example, got really hung up on spinning top. She just couldn't get it. And Cho literally had to slap her and remind her, you need to finish this or we're going to die. And it worked. Cho's team was the first one to finish it. They celebrated, but they weren't the only ones celebrating. Everybody celebrated. Because if Cho's team could do it, that meant that this task was possible to finish. And one by one, more teams started having success finishing the task. That doesn't mean that some teams didn't die, but each team seemed to learn a little something from the team that went previously. One of the last teams to go was Jihan's. Now, they started off like gangbusters. They were just breezing through this thing until it came to spinning top. Spinning top was supposed to be the front man's game. And it's not like he was trying to throw the game, but he just couldn't get it. Unlike Cho, Jihan and his team decided to do a little positive reinforcement, reminding him that he's got it, and he was able to do it. This, however, didn't leave a lot of time to complete the final task, which was Jihan's task. Essentially, it was to throw an item up in the air, kick it 5 times, and keep it in the air. They would have failed this task if it wasn't actually for the front man, because Jihan kicked it a little too far the 5th time, and the front man, with his foot connected to Jihan, lunged forward. It hit Jihan's foot, and they passed. They survived. They returned into the barracks where most of the teams have stuck together at this point. Thanos' team seems way toxic, for the record. But Cho's team, though, they get along really well. The old woman, though, as only an old woman can, ends up asking Cho about transitioning and the surgeries and whatnot. And Cho admits that there are a few surgeries she hasn't gotten done yet to be fully a woman. Jihan's team arrives back, and they start going around exchanging their actual names because they haven't done this yet. The front man tells the group that his name is Oh Young-il, but then he makes a mistake because he says to Gion, "What's your full name? I only know you as Gion." And Gion kind of looks at him puzzled and says, "How exactly do you know my name?" But the front man thinks fast. He tells him that he overheard Jung Bae refer to him as that name, and that's why. And Gion appears to buy this story. While everybody kind of awaits the news of how many players died and how much money the pot went up, the Pink Man continue to go about their business, but number 11 gets a visit from 2 coworkers who were not happy with her. Just like she told her boss, she wasn't going to stop confirming the kills. But these 2 guys, they're going to make her understand that she is going to stop doing this or she's going to die. They trap her in a room, they pin her down, they threaten to cut off her fingers if she doesn't stop. And they make it very clear that she is not going to last very long unless she, quote-unquote, plays ball. Some other Pink Men, though, go to address the players, where they tell them there are 255 players remaining, which means 20.1 billion won, which results in every player getting a little less than 79 million won each. While this seems like a lot of money, some players are pissed off and they still don't think that this is enough money to walk away from the game. Then you got other players, like the old woman, who is convinced that this will be the time where everybody comes to their senses and walks away. She goes so far as to invite her entire team over for a kimchi dinner, and that includes Cho. And while Cho accepts the invite, it becomes obvious to player 95 that Cho might be wavering on the whole walking away thing. There's also wavering going on with Gyeon's team. Gyeon can kind of sense this, so he promises everybody that he will help them out once they're out of this place. After all, he did win the games. The vote then kicks off and player 1 begins. The front man does exactly as he said. He votes no. End the game. As the vote continues, it looks like Gyeon's speech to his team did work because they're all voting to end the game. until Jung Bae gets up. He votes to continue, and that's when the whole dissension starts. But then the dissension starts with other teams, like the Sun. Initially, he voted to end the games after round 1. He votes to continue the games, which is against his mother's wishes. And since she was wavering, player 120 decides to do the exact same thing, continue the games, which comes as a big surprise to her team. After about 60 votes, Gion once again goes to make an impassioned speech, but the front man actually cuts him off. He's the one who makes the speech, begging these people to come to their senses, end the game, think about the future, think about the risk. But all anybody's thinking about is getting more and more money and justifying staying in the game as opposed to leaving it. It gets to the point where, thanks to player 100, you've got a very loud one more game speech going on. And at that point, Gihan kind of knows the chances of ending the game just went right out the window. While the first vote was very close, going down to the final vote, this vote is not. This vote is very lopsided. And the voters vote to keep going. After the players get their food, the old woman goes up to her son and she starts yelling at him for his decision to keep playing the game. And that's when he's forced to admit that he actually owes way more money than he previously let on. And even if they combine both their shares walking away, it wouldn't be enough. That's the reason he decided to keep going. Jung Bae has a similar conversation with his team. He borrowed way more money and he thinks that if he gets through one more game, he can pay off his debts, because right now, the debt collectors are not only coming after him, they're coming after his wife and kid. Gion, however, doesn't really care. I mean, he did just promise these people he would help them out, and he just got betrayed. But Jung Bae reminds him, I'm not the only one who did this, man. It was pretty lopsided. That's when player 388 backs up his fellow Marine, and he says, I actually thought about continuing the game myself, even though I voted no. It's okay. Jung Bae goes on to tell the group that one of the reasons why he continued to go along with the game was because of how well they worked in the last game. But when he brings up surviving the next game, Gion cuts him off and says, what if in the next game we're supposed to kill each other? Did you ever think of that? The front man, though, stops Gion and says, let's talk about something a little more positive. Let's just eat our food and get in the right mindset. And they end up giving a lot of their food to the pregnant girl. The final person that's dealing with betraying their team is Cho. The old woman comes to her and says, why? Well, why did you do it? And player 120 goes on to explain that when she decided to become a woman, her whole life changed. People started treating her differently. If she gets through one more game, it'll not only pay for the surgeries that she needs, but it'll also pay for an entire new life in Thailand. And then you've got the teams that voted yes that are going to bully the folks that voted to end the game, like Thanos' team. They voted to continue the game. And they'll use any opportunity they can to bully player 333. They decide to meet him up in the bathroom. They start giving him crap. They start trying to fight him, but it's broken up when Jung Bae and the front man walk into the bathroom and see what's going on. Thanos, not wanting a repeat episode of the other day, just stops. When the front man and Jung Bae get back to the barracks from the bathroom, Ji-hun warns them that they need to prepare for that night's attack. It was after the second game where they shut the lights off and they let everybody kill each other. He wants to avoid that, so he's taking proper preparations. It's in the middle of the night, though, when the old woman wakes up because she has to go to the bathroom, and her son is really concerned about her taking that trip alone. The old woman, though, came prepared. She snuck in a very, very small knife using a hair instrument. So if anybody comes looking to kill Granny, they're getting shanked. The old woman, though, isn't going to have to worry about it because she's got a little group going with her. You've got player 222, the pregnant girl, and then player 120 is also going to accompany them to the ladies' room. For player 120, just being in a women's room is just a really good feeling for her. When player 222 goes into the bathroom, though, the old woman tells her, if you need anything at all, let me know. Because the old woman was actually the first one to discover that player 222 was pregnant. She was hiding it pretty well. After a little bit, though, the old woman notices that the girl is still in the bathroom. She thinks that something's wrong with her, that maybe she went into labor, but the girl admits, no, I'm just scared, and she starts crying in the old woman's arms. Now, on the outside of the barracks, Jung Bae ends up apologizing to Gion for continuing on with the games, and Gion says, I know it wasn't just your fault. It's fine. They then start doing a little bit of a trip down memory lane, but that kicks off an argument between the two on who's to blame for the divorce of Jung Bae. And Jung Bae is only doing this fight to try to get his old friend out again. Because since he's entered this place, the Guillaume that's in front of him isn't the Guillaume that he was friends with. He doesn't recognize this dude. This dude's changed. But while accusing Guillaume of being the reason why he ended up getting a divorce in the first place, he finally sees his old friend again for a second, and they laugh about it. They agree that one more game, and then they're out. They then try to go to bed with everybody taking a shift, but no attack happens that night. Everybody just wakes up to classical music and they get ready for the next game. But because of what happened last time, Guillaume has no idea what to expect. And sure enough, when he gets in the arena, it is a game he's never played before. The game is called Mingle, and you basically get on a revolving platform where somebody announces a number. You have to grab that number of people. If it's 3, 4, 5, you basically have to form a team and then get into a door. So it's kind of like musical chairs in a way, with a time limit. If the number is 5, Guillaume's team is good, but if it's more than that, that's going to be a problem. They're going to need to find one more. If it's less, they could just break up into groups. But this isn't going to be easy. Everybody knows that. They all do agree, though, to stick with the plan. Play as a team. Stick together. Then they get on the platform, and the game begins. In episode 6, the game kicks off, and it is really, really stressful because every single round that goes by, the number of teammates you need changes. Because of this, you either have teams that are having to split up or you have teams that are having to downsize. But you also have people that are literally just grabbing folks and dragging them into rooms, hoping that that's enough people to survive to the next round. This game, of course, comes at a casualty. In round 4, for example, player 120 is filing a bunch of her teammates into the room, and that includes her friend, player 95. But then she notices her friend isn't in the room. Her friend fell down trying to get to the room. And when player 120 goes out to grab her friend, she is pushed back into the room by player 333, and he closed the door, locking player 95 out. This secures the victory for everybody in the room, but it also sets the fate of player 95, who ends up getting shot because she wasn't able to find a team. And that really, really upsets Cho. She starts screaming at player 333 for killing her friend. But Lee says, "No, I didn't. You never would have made it back in time. I saved you. You all should be thanking me. Without me, you all die." And even though she can't stand him, Lee's pregnant ex tells Cho he's right. You never would have made it back. He did us a favor. The final round, you simply need 2 people to get into a room and survive. And not only is this a fight for a teammate, this is also fighting for rooms, empty ones. The frontman and Jung Bae team up together, but when they get into a particular room, they realize they're not alone. There's somebody already in there without a teammate. It's 3 people in a room. You only need 2. If this guy refuses to leave, which he is, none of them are going to survive. So the frontman takes it into his own hands, quite literally. He grabs the guy, choking him out and killing him, ensuring that he and Jung Bae will survive. But man, this freaks Jung Bae out. He just didn't see the frontman having this ability because to him, this guy isn't the frontman. He's player number 1. Either way, though, when it's all said and done, after 5 very, very stressful rounds, everybody that's worth mentioning does survive, and they head back into the barracks. Now the big thing on most people's mind is, what's the split? How many people that wanted to stay in the game died versus how many people that wanted to keep going lived, or vice versa? While Daewoo goes to try to figure out how many people are left and how many people he thinks are on their side, player 333 grabs his pregnant ex because he wants to talk to her. He doesn't like the way that he handled things before, and he vows that once they get out of there, he wants to be with her and raise this baby together. He figures if they put their shares together of the winnings, he can pay off some of his debts, and then he can invest the rest of it into a new crypto that he is convinced will hit. With that money, they can live a comfortable life raising their baby. But the fact that he's sitting here talking about pooling their shares together, i.e. using her shares to pay off his debts, doesn't sit well with her. She tells him to pay off his debts with his own money because she's using her share to raise their baby. And then she walks off. Their tenuous conversation, though, was seen by Thanos and his crew. Mainly player 124, who is Thanos' lackey. He's the one who notices the conversation and he thinks that these two somehow have a past or they know each other, but maybe they can use it to their advantage because, after all, they still want Lee to pay for the crypto scheme. They aren't the only ones looking for revenge, though. The Oracle walks up to the old woman's team And she basically tells them all that she's talked to the gods and their story ends right there. They're going to die there because she asked for it. She's pissed off about how the previous game went and how a few of the games have gone. She feels like she's gotten no credit for helping them out, and they all look at her like she's crazy. But then again, she is crazy. Player 120, though, could not care less about the Oracle's proclamation. All she's thinking about is her friend, who was kind to her, dying. It's around this point where Daewoo comes back with his rough estimate. It's going to be really close. The group starts talking about maybe going over and convincing a few of the people that voted to keep going to join their side, and how to handle that. Do you simply threaten them? Do you entice them? Do you beg them? Jihan wants to do something, but the front man says, no, don't. If we try to force these people to our side now, it could spark a confrontation that could turn to violence. It's around this point where Jung Bae steps in and says, look, there's got to be people here that want to switch sides. There's got to be people here that are going to look at that amount of money and say, you know what, that is enough to walk away. So the group decides, we're just going to sit back, we're going to vote the way we vote, and we're going to hope for the best. What they figure is they need 5 people to switch sides. And if they get those 5 votes, they're good. Everybody's going to go home. A few seconds later, the pink men walk in and they announce the results after Game 3. There's only 100 players remaining, which is 35.6 billion won. That's 356 million per person. They then kick off the vote with highest to lowest, so Jihan ends up going first. There's no reason to make a speech this time because the vote is a lot closer. And Jihan, to his credit, listens to his team. He just has faith that people will switch sides, and they do. What he wasn't banking on is somebody from his side switching over to the keep playing side. And that does happen. One of the final people to vote ends up flipping, which results in the final vote determining what happens. Because at that point, it is 50 yes, 49 stop. And that final vote is the front man, which concerns Jung Bae. And the only reason it concerns him was because of what he witnessed in that room, with the front man taking this guy out and choking him to death with little to no remorse. But all of that doubt goes out the window when the front man walks up and votes to end the game, resulting in a 50-50 tie. Because it's a tie, the pink man announces that they will have the right to vote again the next day. They're going to let everybody just sit with their decision and figure out if they want to switch or keep the same side. After the vote, everybody starts getting their food, which is getting worse and worse as the games go on. This is something that a few of them have noticed. Mainly the mother and the son. They feel like maybe the food could sway a vote or two. And they join Jihan and his team to eat. But at one point, the son decides to try to sway some votes with just friendly banter. He yells out that this food sucks, and if they want, he will buy literally everybody food who switches sides to stop the game. And his mom stands up and says, yeah, no, I'll buy dessert. But that's when Dickhead Player 100, that geriatric deadbeat, stands up and says that when they all die in the next round, he's going to buy his own restaurant and treat everybody who survived and voted to keep going, well, he's going to treat them to a free meal. Because of that response, Daewoo steps in, calling them idiots. And now you've got both sides just going at it, yelling at each other. Tensions are very high, but Jihan isn't getting involved. Jihan, however, notices something about his food. When he looks in the wrapper, he was gifted a fork. And he figures that he's not the only one who was gifted a fork. Oh, and he certainly wasn't. Now, while this argument was going on, you had other guys who were in the bathroom. One of those people being Thanos, who decided to bully one of the guys on his team for choosing to end the game. Thanos wants to keep going. And Thanos and his lackey want to remind this dude that he should probably switch sides, which is something that Lee, player 333, overhears. And he's pissed off. He doesn't think it's right that these people are trying to intimidate votes. He stands up to it. He tells Thanos to stop. And not only does he tell him to stop, he rats him out, letting those that voted to stop the game know, yo, you got people in here who are trying to intimidate our side to change their vote. This results in a little bit of a standoff between Thanos, his lackey, and 333. That's when the lackey completely crosses the line. He brings up Lee's pregnant ex, and Lee tells him to stop talking. That results in a fight. And Thanos, who is much bigger than Lee, ends up taking Lee to the ground and choking him. And it looks like Lee's about to die. Until Lee, who was also gifted a fork, shocks Thanos by stabbing him right under the chin. Now, one group that we haven't talked about in a while is Jun-Ho and his team. They're still searching for the island. They're still searching for Jihan. But unfortunately, they haven't had much luck, and a lot of that has to do with the weather. They have to wait for skies to clear up to head out. But they do think that they still can find the island. After all, Jun-Ho has searched over and over and over again. There's only so many places left that he hasn't searched. And now that he has this mercenary team, he feels like he's got a pretty good opportunity. Using a drone, he's able to search a particular island that he hasn't visited yet. And when he really looks into it, he notices that this particular island has a door that is hidden, and he wants to go search it. So he, along with the mercenaries, get up on the island, they search it, they go to the door, but when they open it up, it explodes. It kills one of the members of the mercenary team, and it injures another one pretty good. And when they get back to the boat, the captain begs them to just stop searching. After all, now people are dying. But the mercenary team, they're tough. And they tell the captain no. Now, he's not dying in vain. We're going to keep going. Jun-Ho feels like who's ever orchestrating these games probably knew they were coming. So to change it up, he's going to ban cell phone use and change their radio connection. That way they can get a jump on these people. But they're going to keep going. They're going to keep searching for the island. And then finally, in the season finale, as the war in the bathroom rages on, outside in the barracks, the people are being alerted to the fact that there is killing going on because you have the intercom system saying, player 452, player 339, player 72 have all been eliminated. When it's all said and done, 5 people died in the bathroom. It does up the count a little bit, but when the folks from the bathroom return to the barracks, they're all a little shell-shocked. And it's Thanos' lackey who proclaims to the entire group that they were the ones who were attacked. But the people who wanted to end the game refute that statement. They say, no, you guys attacked us. And it's really just a he said, she said. But then they all realize that if 5 people died, they need to figure out what side those 5 people were on to figure out who has the majority of the vote currently. After doing the calculations, they realize that the group that wants to end the game is up by 1 person. That's all well and good, but Lights Out is in 30 minutes, and Ji-hun knows exactly what's coming next. He knows that they will be attacked by the group that wants to keep playing. One of the members says, okay, then what do we do now? And it's the front man who says, we have to attack first, but Ji-hun says, no, we're not doing that. We can't just join in on this bloodbath. We'd be playing right into the people who created the game's hands. In fact, that's who we should be going after, the people who put us here. They keep everything going on in-house. All you have to do is get to the top of the staircase. There's a man in a black mask who is orchestrating all of it. If we can get to him, we can finally end this. Of course, Ji-hun has no idea that he's actually talking to that guy. What Ji-hun wants to do is attack the pink guards, get their guns, and use it against them. The front man says, no, what are the odds that even works? And Ji-hun shoots back, what do you suggest? We fight the other side all night, just hoping to God that we make it out? No, we can do this. Ji-hun starts to formulate a plan that everybody's going to follow. He knows that once the lights go out, the other side will creep down and start attacking. But it's only a matter of time before the guards rush in and stop it. So what his group is going to do is hide under their beds. That way, in the darkness, they'll be safe. Once the guards do rush in, though, they're going to pretend to be dead. So when the guards come to check their vitals, that's when they pounce. It's a surprise attack. They steal the guns, and they outnumber them. And that is exactly how it plays out, just like Ji-hun called. This strategy takes the pink guards completely by surprise. They're able to capitalize on the fact that they weren't expecting this. They're able to grab the guns, shoot a lot of them, and they even get a hostage out of it. Of course, all this is being watched by the guy who's underneath the front man, the guy who's in charge of that organ smuggling ring. So when this happens, he puts the word out to all the pink guards to be on alert, get ready, all hands on deck type of thing. One of the players actually wants to turn the guns on the group that wanted to keep playing, but Ji-hun puts a stop to that and says, no, we'll be no better than them. We're not doing that. That wasn't part of the plan. And he ends it. When cooler heads prevail, he, along with his team that have the guns, make an announcement to the entire barracks that they're going after the people who put them there, the people who are orchestrating the game. That way they can put a stop to it. Since they're holding guns, surprisingly, player 100, that geriatric douchebag, has nothing to say. Ji-hun makes a plea to everybody that if you've used a gun before and you're willing to fight, step forward to help them out. And a few of them do. It's then player 120 who gets up in front of the group and she shows everybody how to unload a clip because it turns out she was a colonel in the special forces. She was kicked out of the military because she went trans, but she's a stone cold killer. The group then gears up. They all make sure they have enough ammo, and using the hostage, they start making their way up the staircase. It's not too far up, though, that they are attacked, but because they have so many of them, they're able to kill the few pink guards that made it down without any casualties. Not only that, they're being very smart about this. Every time they pass a security camera, they're shooting it out. So the guy who's underneath the front man, at this point, since I haven't given him a name, I'll just call him Square Mask. You know, it's always good to give a guy a name in the season finale. That's on me. Hit thumbs down for that. But anyway, Square Mask is having a tough time seeing what's going on. He's really just hearing it. And with the group making their way farther up the staircase, he really needs all hands on deck. But luckily, he does have a lot of pink guards at his disposal, and they're able to pin the group down in one of the areas. You've got a firefight going on between Ji-hun's team and the pink guards. Ji-hun decides in that moment that he's going to go look for the control room entrance, and maybe he can put a stop to it by himself, but he's going to bring Junbei along with him. That pretty much leaves everybody else continuing on in the firefight. And Junbei and Ji-hun do make it up to the staircase. They're making good headway, and they're radioing back to the front man to let him know what's going on. But Ji-hun wasn't as savvy as player 120. Ji-hun wasn't shooting out the security camera footage, so Square Mask is able to see what's going on, and he sends more guys to protect the staircase at all costs. That causes Ji-hun and Junbei to get pinned down. And the longer the firefight goes outside, it favors the pink guards because they just have more of them, and they have more ammunition. And quickly, everybody that's playing the game that's trying to fight back is quickly running out of bullets. Eventually, Junbei radios back to the front man and says, "We need ammo, we need some backup." And the front man says, "Yeah, we're having trouble too. We're running out of ammo." Ji-hun tells him, "Hey, there's ammo in the pockets of the dead pink guard, so grab that." And that's a little bit of a game changer. The front man, along with two other guys, agrees to help Junbei and Ji-hun, while Daewoo says, "I'll go get the ammo from all the dead guards that I can find." The problem is, Daewoo's a little shell-shocked. Even though he was a Marine, it appears like he's going through PTSD. He's yet to fire his weapon. He's kind of hiding, covering his ears. So while he is able to find a bunch of ammunition, and he runs back to the barracks and he finds more ammunition there, when he heads back to the game, he gets radioed by player 120 asking, "Where the hell are you? We need ammunition." Daewoo doesn't answer. He drops the walkie-talkie, and he heads back inside the barracks, and he hides. Player 120, realizing that her group is about to get descended upon by the pink guards because they have run out of ammo, decides to run back and try to find Daewoo, but more importantly, try to find that ammo. When she arrives back in the barracks, she starts yelling, "Has anybody seen Daewoo?" And the group says, "Yeah, he's over in the corner. He's shook." Player 120 feels for Daewoo in that moment. She wants to help him out, but more importantly, she knows that she needs to get that ammunition back to her team. But when she goes to head back out to the staircase, pink guards have shown up, and there are a lot of them. And it's 1 versus probably 7. Because she was special forces, she's about to fight them off, but it's the old woman who stops her and says, Don't do this. It's not going to end well." And she stands down. It's around this time where the front man has reached Ji-hun and Junbei. He tells Ji-hun that he's going to look for the staircase on the other side. Maybe he can sneak up on these people and kill the guards. That way they can all make their way up the staircase to the control room, put a stop to it. Of course, he's got ulterior motives. Junbei and Ji-hun, meanwhile, will just distract the guards, keep them entertained, and hopefully Player 1 and his team will do as they say. But that doesn't happen. Player 1 sends the 2 guys who came along with him up the staircase, and then he shoots them. He proceeds to cover his tracks by radioing to Ji-hun saying, "I'm sorry, it's over." And then he fires a bullet, making it seem like he was killed in the process. After that happens, he switches radio frequencies. He tells Square Helmet, "Okay, let's wrap this up." And that's when the pink guards put a stop to everything. With Ji-hun and his group completely out of ammunition and overwhelmed, they have to surrender. As for people in the firefight, if they were participating, they were all killed. There is no surrender. Ji-hun and Junbei, they also stand down. And as they're waiting for their execution, down the staircase walks the front man. He asks Ji-hun, "Player 456, did you enjoy playing the hero? Well, now you're going to have to deal with the consequences." But he doesn't shoot Ji-hun. He shoots Junbei. killing him. Jihan screams, pissed off that he once again lost a friend to this game, but he's being held down by the pink guards. And then finally, it turns out that the people that were running the game didn't just have a mole inside the game, i.e. the front man, they also had a mole on the outside. It was the ship captain. While Jun-Ho and his group are in the boat during a storm, one of the members of his team gets seasick and he heads outside. But he notices that there's a light coming from one of the rooms, so he goes to check it out and he finds the captain messing with the drone, and that's really, really odd. The captain kind of brushes it aside at first, telling the guy, all right, let's just go back to bed. But then he stabs him and he throws him overboard. So the captain is absolutely working for the front man, for the game, and he's doing his best to sabotage Jun-Ho's search. Now, Season 3 picks up right where Season 2 left off, with the cleanup of the failed rebellion. The workers kill everybody except one person, Jihan. They put him in a coffin, he's knocked out, and they deliver him back to the barracks so that everybody can see that he is the only survivor. Although that's not technically true. Number 246, in just a desperation plea, tells the worker that's got a gun pointed at him, I have a sick daughter at home, please don't shoot. But the worker does, although the intentions were good. The shot is to the abdomen, and the worker tells 246, close your eyes and play dead. That's how you're going to survive. That worker is number 11. Number 11 has a plan this entire time. She cozies on up to a couple of the other guys, and she tells them, hey, 246, he's still alive. We can harvest the organs. And she acts like she's going to be on their team. So when it comes time for all the bodies to be disposed of, they put that in the certain crematorium where the body just drops down. That will allow the doctor to harvest the organs, and they'll cash in on it. And the only thing she asks is to be brought in on the process, to be shown exactly where the operation goes down. And the worker tells her, yeah, all right, we're on the same team. Okay, I'll do that. And they bring her down, and she's the only woman. And it seems like they might have some ulterior motives, but they never get to it, because right before the operation actually begins, she pulls a gun on all of them. And she shoots every one of them but the doctor. She makes it very clear to the doctor, you are going to save him or you die. So he goes about being a doctor. He stitches the guy up. He tells her that his vital organs seem to be okay, but there is one thing. He's lost a lot of blood. He needs a blood transfusion. They don't have the blood there. And she says, all right, well, take it from me. I'm an O, universal donor. So he does it. At gunpoint, mind you. Again, though, the rest of the game, they just think that Jihan is the only one to survive. And when he does finally wake up, his memory is a little foggy to what happened, and they have to explain to him, yeah, you're it, man. And that's when it starts coming back to him. That's when Jung Bae getting shot in front of him comes back to him. And his whole mood changes. He just kind of slumps down and looks at the ground. He's in his own little world when the workers come in and let them know how many people died in the failed rebellion. It was 35 players, so only 60 remain, and a lot of those players in the failed rebellion who ended up dying were anti-games, obviously. So that means that when it comes time to vote, it's going to be very, very lopsided for the pro-staying crowd. But before they even get to the vote, Jihan stands up and demands to know why they let him live. Out of everybody, why did they keep him alive? And he basically begs them to kill him. But they're not about to do that. That's not how the game works. He's so animated, though, that they actually have to handcuff him to one of the bunks just to keep him at bay. And as he's having a little bit of a breakdown, as he gets restrained, the front man is watching all of this. But that's when the front man gets a call from Captain Park. He tells the front man that they're going to try to get another drone pilot. It's only a matter of time before they want to go back out on sea. And the front man tells him it is of the utmost importance that they do not find the island. So whenever they do get this new drone pilot, just make sure he doesn't complete his mission. And if things go south, kill everybody, including the detective. And I'll remind everybody the detective is his brother. Now, up until this point, Captain Park has flown under the radar, but there is one person that thinks that his actions have been shady, and that is Woo-Sok. So while the group is on shore looking for a new drone guy, Woosak, he ends up going to Detective Wong and telling him, hey, there's something shady going on with Captain Park. I know your history. I know about the fact that he saved you. He found you just floating in the ocean. He brought you back to the hospital and all of that. But the night that our old drone guy went missing, I heard a noise and I went to the deck, and I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I saw Captain Park holding a screwdriver, and that's just weird to me now. Detective Wong just blows it off. He doesn't think it's a big deal at all. He trusts Captain Park. After all, Captain Park saved his life. But Woosak, he's not so sure. So once they do actually find a new drone guy, he doesn't go. Everybody else goes, but he calls Detective Wong and he tells him, hey man, listen, I'm not going to go because I don't really trust this captain. I'm going to look into him. And if I find anything, I will call you. But until I actually look into this guy, I'm just not going on his boat. Back at the island, though, that they're not supposed to find, the vote goes down, and it goes down as expected. Continuing the game dominates the vote. And you've got the old guy, player 100, who's always a shitster, walks by Jihan and just starts mocking him about the fact that he got everybody to join his rebellion, but the rebellion was unsuccessful. And maybe that was a part of the plan the whole time, was to eliminate all these people. So player 100, who's been pro-game the entire time, thanks Jihan, but it's obviously half-hearted. He's not the only one to kind of mock Jihan during this experience. Player 44, who thinks she's some kind of Miss Cleo type, can talk to the dead, some spirit whisperer. She starts mocking him too, telling him that, oh, you can actually hear all your little friends yelling at you from the dead. And that's when Jihan just snaps and starts choking her. And he probably would have killed her had it not been for her cronies pulling her away. Since Jihan is still handcuffed to the bed, he can't really move that far. There are those, however, that are still looking out for Jihan. You got player 7, Young Sik, and his mom, player 149, Gyumja, and you've got player 120, Hyunju, who all try to make him feel better. Hyunju especially, she takes most of the blame for what happened because she couldn't get ammo back to the group in time. But Young Sik steps in and says, no, come on, we all know what actually happened. We know who's to blame. This is Daeho's fault. I mean, as soon as he showed up, he took the rounds and he went to go leave, but then he just froze. And that's something that Jihan had no idea about. So he does put all the blame on Daeho. So much so that he stares him down all night. I mean, when Daeho wakes up the next morning, you've got Jihan just staring at him. Daggers. The contestants, though, need to get ready for game number 4. And the front man needs to get ready for the VIPs. They're arriving that day, so that's his main focus. But as the contestants head to the game arena and they walk up the steps, they're greeted by a sort of human chandelier full of a bunch of the people that died trying to rebel, one of them being Jung Bae. And that's really tough for Daeho to look at, because he did, in fact, look up to Jung Bae. But Jihan doesn't care. He continues to stare him down. When they do arrive at the destination, they're told that they will be splitting up into 2 teams, and you cannot pick the teams. They will be chosen at random via what's essentially a big gumball machine. You got to go up, you got to spin it, you get a color blue or red. That's the team you're on. And there are some people that are split up. Like player number 333, the crypto boy, he and his pregnant girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend if you will, they're split up. Young Sik and his mom are split up. And Jihan and Daeho are also split up. But that's when they find out that the game is going to be hide and seek. The blue team will be hiding. The red team will be seeking. The blue team's entire objective is to survive 30 minutes. They're all given keys. The keys will unlock a door, and that's going to help you escape, but also open up other areas to the arena. Essentially just more hiding spots. The red team, though, they're going to be given a very, very big knife. And their objective is to find somebody on the blue team and kill them. And they have to kill one person. All of a sudden, player 100, who is the bait at this point, he's on the hiding team, he doesn't like this game so much. It's kind of amazing. And a lot of the blue team feel like they're at a disadvantage because they're being chased by people with big knives. But as the red team reminds them, hey, you guys have keys. You can hide. You can go somewhere. You can escape. Now, one of the announcements that the workers make is that members of the red team are not allowed to attack each other. But in the final wrinkle, You can switch teams. The workers are going to give them ample opportunity to find somebody on the other team to switch with. And there are people that want to switch. Young Seek tries to convince his mom to switch sides, saying, look, I'll kill somebody. I'll protect you. And it takes a lot of convincing. I mean, neither of them are really killers, but eventually common sense does come over his mom, and she goes, okay, fine. We'll switch teams. I'll hide. You kill. You find me. You protect me. We'll survive another round. Same thing with Myung-ji, player 333. He tries to convince Jun-hee, his pregnant ex, to switch sides because at the moment she's supposed to kill somebody. And at first, she brushes him off. She doesn't really want anything to do with him. But he swears this will be what's best for the baby. I will kill somebody. I will come back and I will protect you. But she still doesn't really want to do it. Until finally he says, okay, then you find me and you kill me to survive. Because I want the baby to survive. And because he's so adamant about that, it just seems to sway her opinion. So at the last second, she does switch sides. Funny enough, player 100, who you can tell is terrified, actually asked Ji-hun if he wants to switch sides, but the look that Ji-hun gives him, he's lucky he survived that look alone. He just walks away. Yeah, Ji-hun ain't switching sides because he still wants to be the hunter. He's got somebody on his mind, and it's Daeho, who he has not taken his eyes off of. And it gets to the point where Daeho finally has enough of it, and he storms up to him and demands, all right, what's your deal, dude? Wait, you think this is my fault? This isn't my fault. If anything, it's your fault. And he just starts screaming at Ji-hun, trying to heap all the blame on him for what happened with the failed rebellion. And the logic he uses is, if we had just attacked the other side, we would have won the vote. We would be out of here by now, but we didn't do that. We did your plan and it failed. So blame yourself. But Ji-hun doesn't say anything. He just lets this tongue lashing continue because he knows that in a couple minutes, he's going to get a chance to hunt him down and kill him. And then it comes time for them to go out in the arena. Now, the hiding team will go out first. They'll have 2 minutes to hide. And the hiding team right now includes the old woman, Yeom-jae, Young Seek's mom, player 120, Hyun-ju, player 222, Jun-hee, the pregnant girl, and player 388, Daeho, along with obviously a slew of others. Initially, when all of the group that is supposed to hide gets together, player 100 screams, okay, it's best if we work together. If we all find the door, scream, and we'll all escape. And some of them think that's a great idea, but time is ticking, and they gotta find a place to hide or start trying out doors or something. But that's when Jun-hee, the pregnant girl, seems to have some issues. Whether it be contractions or something, it's bad timing. Luckily, though, she does have allies, and Hyun-ju and Gyum-ja, the old woman, they come to her side, and they're going to try to find her a hiding place. But as the group hides, you've got alliances forming on the outside with the hunters, or the seekers. Player 124, Thanos' old buddy, who's one of the only surviving members from Thanos' group, walks up to Myung-ji, player 333, and asks him, hey, do you want to work together? And at first, 333 has no interest in working with this dude. Just seems like he's looking forward to killing people way too much. But 124 goes on to explain that this is going to be best if you do find a partner. Because the people that are hiding aren't just going to willingly die. They're going to fight back. So you might as well find a partner, just gang up on somebody. And when it comes time for them to go in, player 333 agrees to work with 124. But Ji-hun, he doesn't have a partner. He just has a target. And that target is likely Daeho. In episode 2, the Seekers pile into the arena, and for Ji-hun, he's just looking for one. He's looking for one person, and that's Daeho. Now, initially, it's not easy for anybody. You've got people trying to hide and opening up random doors. And one of the things with the doors is once you open it, you can't lock it again. And one thing the people that are hiding quickly realize is the fact that their key doesn't open up every door. There are 3 different keys: circle, X, and square. So it really benefits the hiders to team up, and that's what a lot of them do. That's what Hyun-ju, Jun-hee, and the old woman do. They team up, with really Hyun-ju protecting both of them. While this is going on, though, you've got Myung-ji, who has teamed up with Thanos' old buddy, player 124, and he's trying to get his kill so that he can go and find his ex. Protect her, just like he said. The tandem get their first kill pretty quickly. For Hyunju's trio, though, they're trying to make their way through and just survive when they hear the announcement that one player was killed and player 333 is safe. And for Jun-hee, she's pumped because that means that he's got his kill and he should be coming to protect them. And in fact, he is. He's trying to ditch player 124, but player 124 isn't getting the hint. And when player 124 jokes around about the fact that it's pretty obvious that 333 is looking for the girl that he's always talking to, Myung-ji snaps. He puts a knife to his throat and he says, look, if you touch her, you're dead. And player 124 is so high that he doesn't care. I mean, he's just like, oh yeah, no, I'll help you find her. But he does pose an interesting question to Myung-ji. What happens if you see a blue vest? I mean, then what? Random person. You might as well kill him. It'll bump up the money. And 124's logic actually does make sense. Basically, if you kill a blue vest, that's one less person that a red vest can kill. So really, when you kill a blue vest, you're doubling the money. 2 people died, and thus the prize money goes up. And for Myung-gi, that is pretty enticing. So, while he's going to look for his ex and protect her, he's also going to kill any blue vest that he sees. But as for Jun-hee and the trio, they're having a tough go of it. Hyunju is doing a great job of protecting them. But while trying to hide, Jun-hee ends up slipping, fracturing her ankle, and she can't really walk. And on top of it, she's pregnant to begin with. They decide to go into a room and just hunker down. And that's when it goes from bad to worse because her water breaks. And now she's in labor. She does give birth to the baby. It's a healthy baby girl. The old woman cuts the umbilical cord with her. I don't know what they're called, folks, but it's like that hair clip thing that's actually a knife. But the crying from the baby attracts somebody with a red vest. He comes in, and Hyunju once again has to defend them. It's at this point that they make the decision that Hyunju needs to go off and try to find the exit. All 3 women have all 3 different keys. And when you do reach the exit, you need all 3 keys to actually open it up and escape. And it doesn't take long for Hyunju to actually find the exit. She opens it up, it's great, okay, fine. She goes back to collect the old woman and Jun-hee and the baby. And as she's explaining to them in the doorway, hey, I found the exit, she gets stabbed by Myung-ji. And he can tell as soon as her body drops and he sees his ex, he sees the baby, that he made a terrible mistake. 124, who doesn't see any of this, just says, hey, did you get another one? And he says, yeah, but there's nothing in this room. Come on, let's keep going. Kind of messed up. He doesn't actually protect her. He just goes off with his new buddy. And that leaves the old woman and Jun-hee to figure out what they're going to do. I mean, there's a couple minutes left in the game, but it's not safe. The baby is crying. The old woman knows that the baby's cries are going to attract more attention, so they need to try to find that exit, and they do. But right before they go through, they get approached by somebody in a red vest, and it's the old woman's son. He still hasn't killed anybody. Time is quickly dwindling, and the person that he's decided he's going to kill is Jun-hee. His mother, though, says, no, you're not doing that. Take my life. I've lived. I'm old. Kill me. You live. She lives. Her baby lives. But Young-si can't bring himself to kill his mother. He actually pushes her aside and approaches Jung-hee. He's got the dagger up. He's ready to strike down, and then he gets stabbed by his own mother. The reality is, he was going to die anyway because he hadn't gotten a kill yet. And she wasn't about to let him kill Jung-hee. After all, she's a new mom. So while it's super difficult, Yeomja is going to survive, along with Jun-hee and the baby. They're going to make it on the next round. But the first person to actually find the exit was the wannabe shaman, player 44. Her journey was wild. She had a bunch of the followers, and she was trying to harness the spirits to find out where the exit was. And at one point, she opened up one door, and all she found was player 124 and Myung-ji. And she quickly ran, and it was basically lambs to the slaughter. The next time she evaded death was when she ran into Ji-hun. And the way she did that was she pointed Ji-hun in the direction of Daeho. She saw Daeho hobbling around. He had injured himself, and there was a trail of blood. And that is when she found the exit. But she quickly realized, oh, I need all 3 keys. I only have 1. That's when she found player 100. He had 2 of the keys. So they headed to the exit. She was kind of insulting him the entire time. And that's when he went through first, grabbed one of the keys, and said, oh, there you go. And he survived. As she's trying to collect herself, she gets approached by the other kid in Thanos' group. he had found Thanos' cross full of drugs. 124 had dropped it, and he decided to take it, and he is tripping. He starts asking player 44 about this girl that he's looking for, and he's got to protect her, but then all of a sudden he starts seeing player 124 mock him, and that's when he plunges the dagger into 44 and kills her. So the shaman is no more. She didn't see it coming. And then, of course, there's Ji-hun, who spent the entire game looking for Daeho. And he does finally find him. Daeho tries to explain that he faked everything. He faked being a soldier. His tattoos aren't real. He just wanted to be a part of the crew, and he couldn't go through with it. He froze. That was it. But when that doesn't sink in with Ji-hun, that's when he lashes out at Ji-hun and reminds him, hey, this is your fault too. And the two get into a tussle because Daeho had found a knife, and he was hiding it from Ji-hun, and he attacked first. Eventually, though, this does culminate with Ji-hun strangling Daeho, killing him and advancing into the game. When it's all said and done, the notable deaths are Hyunju, player 120, Daeho, player 388, the Shaman, player 44, Young-sik, player 7. But while the game was going on, a life was being saved. The doctor, in the bowels of the mountain, proudly announces that 246 is alive and well. He's breathing. They made a deal. But that's when number 11 just shoots him in the head. 246 is conscious. He hears all of this, and he's scared. And 11 tells him, I'm trying to save your life. And it seems like the way she could do that is by taking the doctor's outfit and putting it on 246. In episode 3, the officer gets a message that they've lost contact with the operating room, so he says, all right, go check it out. And when they do, they see what happened. They scan all the bodies except for the one on the operating table, and then they message him back that it was probably a gunfight, and 16, the surgeon, killed all of them. And he finds that really weird, so he says, all right, well, I'm going to want to talk to 16 when the lights go out. But of course, number 246 is now in 16's uniform, and number 11 is guiding him all the way. He's still injured. He's still recuperating from the gunshot, but she lets him know about the camera in his room. She lets him know just to kind of lay low, act normal, while she figures out a way for them to get out of there. When the officer checks the cameras, he finds out that all of the dead people obviously aren't in the room because they're dead, but number 11 is also not in her room. So he radios back, hey, I need to know where number 11 is, but he does so in his office, and then he quickly finds out that number 11 is in there with a gun pointed at him. And now it's all starting to click. Oh, okay, yeah, no, you were the one who shot up the operating room. She tells him that she's going to want to patrol the outer perimeter tomorrow with number 16, and they're going to need a boat. He reminds her it's not going to be that easy to get out of there, but she says, well, the VIPs are here. I mean, isn't it easier for you if me and 16 just disappear? And it is, in fact, easier. So instead of meeting with 16 that night, he sets it up. He gets the boat, he slips her a key, and in the morning, he watches her receive the key, but then he starts to think, no, something's not right about this. So he sends one of the workers back down to the operating room and says, check it out. Find if you maybe missed anything. And that's when the worker sees the IV. He looks on the body on the table, and there is no track mark for it. And that's when he scans the body and finds out that it's number 16. Number 11 had 246 swap places with 16, and now 16 is actually a player in the game. Now, while they're trying to get off the island, Jun-Ho is trying to get on it. They've found a new drone pilot, and they seem to have located it. Jun-Ho recognizes the beach, and he begs Captain Pak to let him go on. And Captain Pak tries to convince him not to, but eventually he just gives in, and he lets Jun-Ho go on the beach by himself. But before he actually does that, he gets a phone call from Woo-Sok, who did some digging. And it turns out that no one knows who Captain Pak is. No one's ever heard of him. He finds it really, really suspicious, and he just warns Jun-Ho, hey man, just watch out. Woo-Sok, however, decides to do more digging. He finds out where Captain Pak lives, and he breaks into his house. And Captain Pak has this guard dog. And initially, Woo-Sok is able to avoid the guard dog, and he gets inside, and he starts looking at a bunch of pictures, and nothing really out of the ordinary until he sees a picture with the guy that initially gets you to play Dachi. And he recognizes the guy because he was the person who pulled the trigger on his boss. And now he knows that Captain Pak is working for these guys. With that information, he goes to leave, but then something catches his eye. It was supposed to be hidden, but outside, underneath the doghouse, was a trash bag. The trash bag had a pink jumpsuit, with a mask, and then under that was a bunch of cash. But before Woosak could do anything, he gets caught by the police. Jun-ho, though, he does get on the beach. He goes up to the top of a mountain, and it all comes rushing back to him. This is, in fact, the place. He radios back to the boat, and they tell him, all right, come back, and we'll search the first thing in the morning. But back inside, at the game, most of the survivors are reeling from the fact that they lost somebody that they were close to. For player 124, he's now reeling from the fact that he lost Thanos' cross full of drugs, and he's panicking a bit. And player 125, the guy who picked up the drugs, he's not telling. The old woman gets Jun-hee situated with her new baby, a baby that is yet to meet his father because the guy's too much of a bitch to actually go over and say something. He's literally just watching from a distance. But then they all need to vote. You do have some people that actually switch teams, like player 124. And the old woman begs the group, come on, enough's enough. I mean, we have a baby in here. Let's get out of here. This is enough money. But unfortunately, her pleas go unanswered, and they vote to continue to play the game. There's only 25 of them left. The old woman is really upset about it, as are most people that voted to end the game, but she continues to try to take care of Jun-hee and the baby. After making sure that Jun-hee and the baby get some sleep, she heads on over to talk to Jihan, and she starts to talk to him about the game, because she knows that Jihan looks at it like a lot of what's gone down and a lot of the people dying is all his fault, and she wants to let him know it's not. But this kind of segues into her beating herself up over the fact that she killed her own son. I mean, it really, really is weighing on her. The conversation is dominated by her, but she's really just getting a lot of this off her chest. It turns out Jihan will be the last person she talked to, because when they wake up the next morning, she couldn't live with the fact that she killed her own son. She hung herself. And now there's only 24 players left. And for Jun-hee, she is devastated over losing this woman, because now she lost the two people that were closest to her in the game, Hyunju and Gumja. She doesn't, though, have a ton of time to really mourn the loss because they have to get ready for the next game. The next game is something that the VIPs are really looking forward to. Now, a new wrinkle in the game this year is the fact that the VIPs are more hands-on. Like, for example, in the last round, the VIPs were allowed to go down in pink suits and kill those that didn't make the cut. But now they're back in their VIP area, and they're also awaiting the next game as they just argue back and forth and really just peacock around each other. The players, though, making their way towards the arena, and that's when Jihan walks up to Jun-hee, and he tries to help her out with the baby. Now, she is so incredibly stubborn that she does the thing that she always does. At first, it's like, no, I don't need your help. And then he's like, come on, you got a bum ankle. You're at risk of endangering the child. I mean, just let me hold her. What am I going to do? As the two make their way up the steps, she starts telling Jihan about the baby and why she decided to keep the baby and how, no matter how hard things got, the baby was now her main priority. She then, though, starts beating herself up over the death of her friends, and Jihan turns to her and says, no, don't do that. This was not your fault. We all had a choice to come here. All of us. We all made that choice. So don't blame yourself. They then get to the game arena, and it is going to be jump rope. The rope, however, is robotic, and it's huge, and it will knock you to your death if you don't end up jumping in time. And on top of it, you're on a very narrow walkway, and in the middle of it, you have to jump over because there's a gap. This is not going to be easy, and you've got 20 minutes to complete it. A lot of it has to do with timing, but a lot of it also has to do with balance, which is not going to be good for Jun-hee. Not with a fractured ankle. And as they start to game plan on how they're going to get Jun-hee over to the other side, and Jihan tells her, I'm going to help you, but just leave the baby here, and we'll come back. It's only 20 minutes. One of the workers comes over and says, no. The baby has to go over too. And that was a rule that was brought in by the VIPs. They had debated whether or not to include the baby in the game, and they decided, okay, yeah, I mean, the baby's here. The baby also has to cross. And at this news, Jihan loses it. He can't believe they're forcing a baby into this game, but there's nothing really he can do. They've got guns pointed at him. He's just going to have to complete the task. He's going to have to figure out a way. And at first, everybody's scared of going over this line, but the first person, though, to actually get on the path is player 124, and it's not really by choice. Player 125 came over to him because he could tell that 124 was having a tough go of it,
He's in withdrawal. And that's when 125 mockingly shows him the cross. And 124 tried to grab it, but 125 pushed him back and said, no, you're not taking this. No, if you want it, go get it. And he threw it onto the pathway, forcing 124 to go and grab it to get the last pill. So player 124 gets out there, and at first he's doing fine, but when he finally grabs the cross and he opens it, he realizes that 125 took out the last pill. And that's when he gets knocked down to his death. The next person to go is Jihan. He can't wait any longer. He's got to get over, with the baby, mind you, and then get back, pick up Jun-hee, and get them over. And it's a little helter-skelter there for a bit. He loses his balance a few times, but he is able to get across the other side in about 2 minutes. The problem is, once people see that he's able to do it successfully, they also start getting on the pathway, which blocks his ability to actually get back to Jun-hee. So he's just yelling to her, hey, just sit tight, I'll be back for you, don't worry, but this is a slow process, and you've got 22 people slowly making their way down a path, and the clock is ticking. All the while, Jihan is encouraging people, come on, you're good. But when the second guy crosses, he stands by the ledge, and when the third person tries to come over, the second guy pushes him down to his death. And Jihan goes, dude, what are you doing? And this guy, player 96, looks at Jihan with a menacing smirk and says, I'm playing the game.
In episode 4, Jihan tells player 96, you need to get out of the way. And player 96 can tell that he's not joking. He also knows that Jihan, because he's behind him, can easily just push him off, so he does end up getting out of the way, and that does let a couple of the players through. But eventually, player 96 pounces when he sees that Jihan, who at this point is encouraging other players to hurry up, is distracted, and he tries to attack him. Jihan, however, is able to fight him off, throw him onto the tracks, where eventually the rope ends up hitting him and killing him. Most of the big-name players make it, except Jun-hee. She doesn't. Now, player 333 does try to convince her to get up and go. He wants to help her out. He wants to get her and the baby out of there. But with the baby already safe, she's kind of just accepted her fate. It's not going to happen. She's not going to be able to make it over in time. And on top of it, she wants nothing to do with player 333. She doesn't want his help. She makes that abundantly clear. So no matter how hard 333 tries to convince her to get up and at least make an effort, an attempt, she's not doing it. She's sitting down. And when all of the players, including 333, finally get past the line, that's when Jihan promises to come back and get her, but clock is ticking. There's no way he would make it back in time. And to keep him from even attempting that, she throws herself off the ledge. Now, the baby is in the hands of Jihan. The players return to the barracks, shocked as always, but up in the VIP area, they have to decide what to do about the baby. And they end up coming to the conclusion that the baby should now take over the mother's spot. The baby is now a player. And the actual players find this out when the soldiers come in and they say, there are 9 of you left. But of course, they're looking around, they're going, wait, there's only 8 of us. And that's when they say, no, the baby is taking over the mother's spot. Even though the baby can't vote and can't do anything because it's a newborn. None of the players are overly happy about this at all. And still, player 333 has yet to speak up that the baby is actually his. At that point, the players just want to get rid of the baby. But the soldiers make it known that now that is forbidden. You can't just attack other players because every player should have the opportunity to win the game. And then they bring out the tuxedos because the next game is going to be the final game. Later that night, all of the players eat like kings, including the baby. I mean, it's really nice. They have a bottle prepared for it. They, however, have yet to actually vote if they're going to play the next game. And that's when the soldier gives them a clue about what will be in the next game. He tells all of them that they will choose who will be eliminated, and they only have to eliminate 3 people. They can eliminate more if they want, but 3 people, and then the rest of them can split the prize money if they want. Then it comes time to vote. Now, player 124 is going through withdrawal. He somehow was able to make it through the last round, even though he was tripping balls. But he, just like player 125, has decided, I probably should end my run now, and he votes no. As does Jihan. But the rest of the players, including player 333, vote to continue the game.
knowing full well what would probably happen with a vote, considering that his baby would be on the line. He still voted yes. Most of the players are excited about this opportunity, and they continue to eat and drink and drink and eat. Once the meal is over, most of the group ends up meeting and forming an alliance, and it's decided that Ji-hun will go, the addict will go, and of course the baby will go, and the rest of them will split the prize money. And this includes player 333, who once again is yet to speak up. Everybody then goes to sleep except Ji-hun, who is approached by a soldier late in the night and told that the front man wants to meet with him. Ji-hun sits down and the front man tells him that the rest of the players are colluding to kill him the next day along with the baby. When Ji-hun gets all virtuous on him, he tells him, "I'm trying to help you and the baby." And then he pulls out a dagger. He tells him, "Take the knife back to your quarters and kill anybody who wants to kill you or the baby." After all the eating and drinking, they're knocked out. Ji-hun asks him, "Why are you telling me this now?" And that's when the front man reveals his identity, and Ji-hun feels completely betrayed. Immediately, Ji-hun picks up the knife and he goes to kill him, and the front man tells him, "Look, if you want to do that, that's fine. It's only me and you, but I think we both know that if you do that, there's just going to be somebody else in my place tomorrow. Or you can go back, kill everybody, and then you and baby win the prize, because there's no game if there's only 2 players." Right before he turns to leave, the front man asks him, "Do you still have faith in people?" And Gi-hun freezes for a second, but he doesn't answer the question. He just heads back to the barracks. Now on the outside, Woo Seok is taken to the police station, and he starts giving his account of everything, trying to explain to the cops that Captain Park is not who he's playing himself off to be. He's a part of this criminal organization that wears masks, kidnaps people, forces them to play games to the death, and obviously that sounds pretty crazy, especially considering that Captain Park has a perfect criminal record. I mean, there's no red flags at all. But Woo Seok continues to try to explain and get through to the cops that what he's saying is true. Of course, panic does set in when they say that they're going to call Captain Park and let him know exactly what happened in his house. And Woo Seok flips out because he knows that if Captain Park is aware of what happened, then that's putting everybody on the boat in danger. So he starts begging for his phone. The cops, however, don't want to give it to him. And what makes matters worse is he's overhearing the conversation with the police officer and Captain Park. And at first, Captain Park thinks it's weird that somebody broke into his house, but then when he finds out who exactly it is, that's when it all clicks, that they're on to him. He thanks the cops, he tells them that he doesn't know who Woo Seok is, and then he goes to the captain's quarters, he radios boat number 2, and he says, "We've been compromised, kill everybody before they catch on." But Woo Seok was not about to sit idly and just let his friends die. He got up, he grabbed his cell phone, and he ran around the police station, getting Jun-ho on the phone until he let him know, hey, the captain is working for the group. He quickly has to explain everything, but he does tip off Jun-ho to the fact that the captain knows, and he is in immediate danger. And that's when Jun-ho hears the captain start shooting up the galley of all of the workers. Because he was tipped off, he was able to grab a harpoon spear and spear the captain. And as the captain is bleeding out and dying, he asks the captain where the island is, but the captain doesn't want to give it to him. Which is fine, because the captain already at least gave him the idea of where the island would be. Earlier in the day, they were looking at possible locations, Jun-ho wanting to check out the place that he was at the previous day, but the captain assured him, no, the island's not there, it's too well patrolled. At this point, Jun-ho knows, no, the island probably is there, he was leading us somewhere else. And then as for number 11 and the mystery man that she's trying to save, you find out that that mystery man is the dad from the amusement park with the sick child. That's why she's trying to save him. And so far, the plan is going according to plan. I mean, they get on the boat, they get on it, they're on their way out, but that's when number 11 gets a radio call from the officer letting her know that if she just turns the boat around and brings the player back, he'll turn a blind eye towards everything. She, of course, doesn't want to do that, and that's when he lets her know that she's transporting player 246. He then repeats his entire backstory, the fact that he's got a sick kid in the hospital, all of that. And that forces number 11 to turn the boat around. But when they arrive back on the island, she doesn't force the player to come with her. She gives him the gun and says, go to the hospital. They know where your kid is. You've got to protect your kid. And then she heads off on the island by herself to hopefully handle the officer. She looks up at the mountain and she sees an entryway into the games. so she starts climbing for it. In episode 5, thanks to the ventilation system, number 11 is able to get through and once again get the jump on the officer. At gunpoint, she makes him delete all of the information from the computer that he has on 246. And right before she's about to just kill him, he says, actually, we keep hard copies in the front man's office, and only he and I have access to it, so you're going to need me. So she decides to make him go at gunpoint to the front man's office, but while they're in the elevator, they get into a scrap. While she fights valiantly, he's just stronger than her. He throws her around the office pretty good, and while she's beat up, he finally gets down on one knee and says, what is this all about? I mean, I looked it up, and you and this guy, you worked at the amusement park together, but did you have a crush on him or something? And she says, no, it's his kid. She's sick. And he starts ripping her for the fact that she probably feels like she needs to protect this kid because she left her child behind in North Korea. She begs him to let 246 go, but he pulls out a knife and he's about to stab her, but she starts fighting back. She's actually able to stab him in the shoulder, but once again, he gets the best of her, smashes a glass bottle against her head, knocks her down, and then he reveals to her that the only reason he brought her there was because they're both from North Korea, and he figured that she would understand him better because he also lost somebody just like she lost somebody. His loss was because he couldn't get a kidney, and then to see all of these organs just go by the wayside, it's kind of what motivated him. But now he realizes that she's not built like him. He stabs her once in the abdomen, but then he gets a call from one of the workers telling him that the game is about to begin, and since she's in really rough shape, he doesn't think anything of her. He decides to take his time. He tells them that they're good to begin the game, and he actually starts pouring himself a drink. That's when she starts making a crawl towards the elevator, and he's kind of laughing the whole time as he walks her down, saying, you need my card to get down that thing, right? But she's not going to the elevator to use it. She's going because she forgot something in it. And that's when he realizes, oh crap, the machine gun's in there. He runs as fast as possible, but it's too late. She turns around with the machine gun and shoots him dead. Still badly injured, she picks herself up. She starts making her way through the office. And she does find her way to the filing room, where she finds 246's file, and she tears it up. As for 246, he is trying to make his way home to his child. But before the officer had that fight, he sent security after him. They were able to track him down and shoot him, and it looked like at one point they had him dead to rights until they were shot up by Jun-Ho and his men. Jun-Ho did not heed a warning he got from the front man earlier that day. The front man, knowing what happened to Captain Pak, told Jun-Ho, you got to stop looking for the island or you're going to die. Give it up. But Jun-Ho wasn't about to give it up. And when he saw boats circling around the radar, and he saw them shooting at this one boat, he decided to help out and take that person out. And now they saved 246. But as for the game, Guion headed back to the barracks with that dagger, and he had plans on doing exactly what the front man told him to do. Kill everybody that's planning on killing you. And the reason why the front man did this is because when the front man had played Squid Game, he was given the exact same option by whoever was the front man back then. The front man gave him a dagger. He told him to go back to the barracks, and the front man was able to kill everybody. But Gi-hun is not able to kill everybody. In fact, he's not able to kill anybody. Because when he gets close to doing it, he looks over, and he sees Sabiak. She tells him, sir, this isn't you. You're not a killer. And he realizes that it isn't him. He can't do it. He'd rather just risk it in the game. And that's what he's prepared to do. When the horn sounds in the morning, everybody gets up and nobody has any idea that they all almost died. Instead, they just head to the game to find out what it is. With the VIPs excitedly looking on, they come out to the game arena and there are 3 giant pillars. One's a circle, one's a triangle, one's a square. All the players were brought up to the first one and they're told that they have 15 minutes to decide who is the sacrifice, who is thrown off to their death. If they don't choose in 15 minutes, then nobody wins. But somebody has to die for them to advance to the next pillar. At first, this seems like a really easy option. You've got the one guy who's a junkie, you've got Gi-hun, and then you've got 222. Gi-hun is protecting 222 at all costs. But the players don't initially rush up and gang up on him. They decide to do a democratic vote and vote on who is going to be the sacrificial lamb. The first name thrown out there is 222 because it's a baby. And nobody seems to object at first, but finally player 333 says, you know what, no, I object. I mean, think about it. It just seems like player 456 is going to protect that child at all costs. We have to figure out a way to separate the two. But until we do that, there's an easier target, and it's the junkie. All of the group agree that the junkie should, in fact, be the first casualty. But nobody really wants to be the person to push them. They haven't thought that through. At first, they kind of ask him just to jump on his own, but he doesn't want to do that. And one of the concerns that they have is, what happens if I go to push him and he grabs me and brings me with him? What do I do then? And that's when player 333 unscrews a giant pole, and he uses that, nudging the junkie off, sending him to his death, and advancing everybody to the next pillar. It's at the next pillar where things get really interesting. The group once again convenes, and they vote that player 222 has to go. They start trying to convince Guillaume to just give up the kid. But he's not about to do that. And he uses their aggressiveness to his advantage. He says, okay, well, think about this. You push me off, and you kill both of us. Well, then you have to decide who you're going to kill next round. It's going to be one of you guys. So is that really what you want to do? And that sends everybody back to the drawing board because he's right. The goal is for them all to win, and they've yet to figure out a way to separate Guillaume from the baby. They decide to play rock, paper, scissors, and whoever ends up losing is going to be the person that is in charge of separating Guillaume from the baby. And the way they're going to do that is they're going to tie all their jackets to this guy and use it as like a sort of tether, holding him in place so that he can grab the baby and not be pulled to his death by Guillaume. But when this guy goes in to grab Guillaume, grab the baby, separate the two, what he wasn't banking on was that Guillaume brought the dagger with him. And he just starts kind of biding his time until he grabs that dagger and he saws off the jacket, leaving only him, the guy, and the baby. And that was something the guy was not expecting because now he's got a dagger at his neck. That's when this player 336, who is frozen, ends up getting pushed to his death, not by Guillaume, but by player 333, who's holding the pole. He shocks everybody, and he's now aligned himself with Guillaume. And everybody's surprised because they feel betrayed. And that's when he reveals to the entire group that the reason he did it is because he is the baby's father. Not only does that come as a surprise to the players, it is a huge shock to the VIPs. They love it. But now it's made things interesting for the third pillar when they advance. You've got 333 with a pole, you've got Guillaume with a dagger, and you've got 4 other people who don't have weapons. And they try to start reasoning with them, saying, look, we'll draw straws. But then player 100 decides, no, we're not going to do that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to beat up the weakest person in our group, which they do, and we'll just use him, and then we'll all win, including the baby. But Guillaume steps in and says, no, we're not going to do that either. No, we'll do it your way. We'll draw straws. We'll do this fairly. But that's when some of the players start fighting back. Player 203 goes for Guillaume's dagger, although he ends up getting stabbed and dying. Player 353 gets pushed off by player 333. And then finally, the poor guy that got beat up, even though he's breathing, he decides, you know what, I'm done with this game. And he just voluntarily falls to his death. And that leaves player 100, who starts trying to bargain with them, but they're done listening to him. Especially 333, who pushes him to his death, and that leaves just 3 players for the last round: the baby, Guillaume, and 333. And in the series finale, Jun-Ho gets confirmation that player 246 is indeed a player and not a soldier from the game. And from there, 246 is able to point him in the direction of where the island is located. Also, the guys with Jun-Ho, they've alerted the Coast Guard to their location and everything that they think they're going to be able to find. And that information pops up on the radar for the game. So pretty quickly, the front man is informed, hey, we do have an issue. And they start monitoring the area with a drone to see what's going on. Jun-Ho and his crew, they have about 30 minutes until the Coast Guard shows up, and that gives Jun-Ho enough time to locate the island, scuba dive in, and sure enough, he finds the entrance. Now it's just a matter of finding the front man. But while the front man is monitoring the situation going on outside of the island, inside, the game is going on as well. You've got 3 players remaining, and one of them has to go. Both Jihyun and player 333 know this. So when it comes time to move over to the next pillar, player 333 goes first, but then, holding that pole, he tells Jihyun, bring the baby, leave it, and back up. Jihyun's like, you've got to be kidding me, man. You're going to kill a baby. Like, you're going to sacrifice the baby? Your baby? And indeed, that is what it seems like 333 is about to do. Because he certainly isn't willing to just sacrifice himself. And one of the issues they have is they don't have a ton of time to discuss the matter because they have 5 minutes until the bridge that connects both platforms goes away. So you've got Jihyun on one platform, player 333 on the other platform, and they're at a stalemate. Because Jihyun is not about to just leave this baby so that 333 can kill it. And he tells him as much. He says, look, man, I made a promise to Jun-E. I told her that I would protect this baby at all costs, and that's what I'm doing. And that's when a very frustrated 333 asks, what is your deal with her? I mean, did you know her on the outside? Did you fool around with her inside? Because you two were inseparable the moment you got here. Jihyun, though, doesn't answer that question. He actually agrees to sacrifice himself, saying, look, man, you can kill me. Just let me over the bridge, throw me over, and save yourself and the baby. But 333 doesn't believe him. He thinks that if he lets Jihyun over to the platform, that Jihyun will attack and keep the money all to himself, because after all, Jihyun has done this before, and not only that, he's won. He's really good at this sort of thing. Now, as these two argue about this, and it just seems like there's really no resolution, in the file room, number 11 sets pretty much all the files on fire, destroying any information that the game would have on the contestants. But she does find her file, and it has a lot of information, including some really, really disappointing news about her baby girl. It says that after she defected, her husband also tried to defect with their child, and they both were killed. And that just guts her. So she goes to the front man's office, and she's watching the game, but she's also processing this material as well. Not sure what her next move is going to be, but she's been searching for her daughter this entire time. One of the reasons why she did the game was to find her daughter. And now to find out that there is no hope, it just seems like there's no real reason to live. But inside the game, the reason to live is the money. And with 30 seconds till that bridge goes away, Jihyun caves. He puts the baby down, he backs up from the platform, and 333, using the pole, mind you, scoops up the baby, puts it down, and starts checking on it. This causes him to take his eyes off Jihyun, who crouches down, grabs the dagger. And the moment where the bridge starts retracting, that's when Jihyun runs, leaps, and makes it on to the next pillar, and he starts to attack player 333. These two go back and forth. Jihyun bloodying up player 333 pretty good, but player 333 gets him to stop in his tracks when he picks up the baby and he's dangling it over the side, telling him, I will drop this kid if you don't back up. Jihyun begs him not to do it, and he starts inching closer to him, and player 333 starts breaking down. He demands that Jihyun throw him the dagger, and Jihyun does it because the other option is he just drops the baby. And if you're wondering why he doesn't just do what he's saying he's going to do, drop the baby off, and both he and Jihyun win, well, with Jihyun on the platform, you might as well try to kill Jihyun and save your own child. And that's exactly what he does. He grabs the dagger and he starts fighting off Jihyun, stabbing him a few times until both of them tumble off the side of the pillar. And the only reason they both haven't fallen to their death is because Jihyun, with one hand, grabs some rebar pipe, and he's holding on for dear life. And player 333 is holding on to Jihyun's jacket. But slowly that jacket rips, and player 333 falls to his death. Jihyun picks himself up, returns to the platform, and picks up the baby. And the next round hasn't even started yet. So that's when Jihyun actually presses the button to start the round and start the timer. And he picks up the baby, and he's staring right at where the VIPs are, and they can't figure out why he's taking so long, because they just assume he's going to chuck the baby off the side and keep all the money for himself. And they even start discussing the fact that there's never been a two-time winner, and Jihyun is about to become that. He then puts down the baby, returns to look at the VIPs, and with the VIPs watching, with number 11 watching, with even the front man watching, he tells them, we are not horses. We are humans. And humans are but he never finishes the sentence. Instead, he falls back to his death, allowing player 222, the baby, to become the winner of the Squid Game. For player 11, she had a gun in her mouth. I mean, she was ready to end her life, but when she saw that baby on the pillar, she stopped. She decided there was something more to live for. And shortly after the game ends, a warning sign goes out around the island telling everybody to evacuate. They have 30 minutes until the bombs go off because after they saw the Coast Guard on the scanner and the drone footage, they realized that time was running out. So everybody needs to evacuate. The VIPs, the front man, and player 11 is involved in that evacuation. For Jun-Ho, though, he's deep in the island. He finds the front man's room, but there is no front man. He then goes to the VIP area, and that's when he sees him. That's when he sees his brother. His brother, who had gone out to the games and gone to the pillar to pick up the winner of the Squid Game, turns around with the baby in his hand when he hears gunshots go off, and that's because Jun-Ho, in order to get his brother's attention, shot out the glass. And now he's got a gun pointed right at him. But the front man isn't worried about his brother killing him. The front man knows that his brother won't pull the trigger. And Jun-Ho can't. He just screams, "Why? Why did you do it?" But the front man never answers. He just takes the elevator down off that platform and escapes the island. And a little while later, before it explodes, Jun-Ho does the exact same thing, escaping. So when the Coast Guard does arrive, there's no remnants of anything that happened at that island. 6 months later, things have changed for a lot of the players. Noel returns to the amusement park to check up on the person she saved, 246. He's back drawing caricatures, and he draws Noel's, but he doesn't recognize her. I mean, he recognized the fact that she looks really familiar, but he can't quite place it, and she doesn't tell him. She just says, "Oh yeah, I used to work here." But she's very relieved when 246's daughter runs up with a big smile on her face because she got a picture with the bunny. And 246 is a little surprised that Noel knows his daughter, and she says, "Oh, well, when I worked here, I heard the story about she's sick, but she looks like she's doing much better." And he confirms, yeah, she's doing great. As she's leaving the amusement park, though, she gets a phone call from that headhunter that she had hired to locate her daughter. She hadn't heard from this guy in a while, but he tracked her down because he has a lead on her daughter. Now, it's not confirmed, but everything matches up. The name, the look, everything. And her daughter appears to be in China. And even though up until this point, Noel thinks that her daughter is dead, it's worth trying out, right? So she plans on getting on the plane to China to find her daughter. And as she's leaving, that same headhunter is reconnecting a familiar face, and it's Sabiak's mother with Sabiak's brother. They meet up in the airport, and it's a family reunion. As for Woo-Seok, he's reunited with Jun-Ho. He gets out of prison, he's pumped. And Jun-Ho has a bit of bad news. He did return to the Pink Hotel, but all the money's gone. Someone took it. Now that they have kind of a fresh start, though, they start game planning on what exactly their next move is going to be. For Jun-Ho, though, it's decided. After he says goodbye to Woo-Seok and his buddy, drives home, something's waiting for him when he gets inside. It's player 222. While Jun-Ho was gone, somebody dropped off the baby with a card alerting him to the fact that that is the winner and the debit card that will get him all of the money. So now player 222 is in safe hands. As for Woo-Seok, he just figures that he'll revitalize the Pink Hotel. They'll fix it up. They're in a really good area. They'll make a killing. But then they start talking about what exactly happened to the money, because there were only two people that knew exactly where it was, and it was him and Jun-Ho. And they start talking about maybe there's a possibility Jun-Ho stole the money. But no, there was a third person that knew where the money was. It's the front man. And the front man travels to Los Angeles and finds Ji-Yeon's daughter and delivers a package. Now, at first, Ji-Yeon's daughter wants nothing to do with the package. She's pissed off. She hadn't heard from her father in forever, and she got sick of waiting to hear from her father. So she basically tells the front man, "Yeah, well, I don't want it, and you can tell him to just forget about me." And that's when the front man has to deliver the bad news that her dad has passed away. And this box, what's in it, are his last objects. At that message, she takes the box. She's a little shell-shocked. She opens it up, and you've got player 456's jacket, and then a debit card. She doesn't know it, but she's going to be taken care of for life. She, however, is very confused. She runs out of her house to try to ask some more questions, but at that point, the front man has left. You're not quite sure where he's going, but while he's stuck in traffic, he looks over, and in an alleyway, there's somebody playing dachi. And there's a woman who is orchestrating it. Because the Squid Game is not just something that happens in Japan. No. This game, it's worldwide. And the American recruiter just gives a sly smile to the front man. Because she knows who he is. And that is the end of Squid Game. Thank you so much for getting this part of the recap. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. And let me know what you thought about the ending and if there will be more Squid Game. I have a feeling there'll probably be more Squid Game because this is Netflix's baby. Oh, and if I messed something up, and I surely did because these names aren't Joe, Frank, Jeff, just be nice in the comment section because I don't, it's difficult, all right? It's not easy. It's not intentional that I messed it up, but I'm just trying my best out here. So be nice. But just know, I really appreciate you guys getting to this part of the video and watching and the support.